opposition. Good night. I know you can hear me now. Good night, loyal opposition. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks Show. We are coming to you live from Barbados, and we are excited. We're full of joy, and you know why I'm so full of joy, people. You know why I'm so full of joy? Because when the people rise up, the powers must fall down. And that is what is happening. That is what is happening in this beautiful country. Barbadians are rising up. Barbadians are understanding their self-worth and understanding who they are. And they're no longer taking that narrative that they are passive. Barbadians are no longer accepting that. They are standing up. They are standing up, and I am excited about that. I am excited. I'm excited. I am full of joy. I was thinking about the whole thing today, and I just got excited because everywhere I go, people, everywhere I go, it doesn't matter where I go. If I go to the supermarket, if I go walking, if I go to the beach, if I go to Carter's, wherever I go, people see me and they either wink at me or they say, oh, I'm watching, I'm learning. It's educational. Keep going. And that is what is happening, people. So I want to say good night to the loyal opposition, those who are on. And we are loyal because we are loyal to our country. We are the loyal sons and daughters of Barbados. And it's exciting. Yes, guys, because we are standing up. We're standing up for our country. Rameem says, greetings, loyal, patriotic opposition. I love that patriotic in there. Stay vigilant, she says. Stand up for your rights. Push those in charge to do what's ethical and just. Push for the changes we need. When all rise, folly topples. And that's what we're saying, regardless of the party. Regardless of the party. Someone says, but Marcia, would you guys continue doing this if the government changes? Of course we will. Of course we will. It doesn't change us being Barbadians. It doesn't change us being Barbadians. This is non-partisan. Non-partisan. Rameem is asking us to like and share. Tracy Barra, good evening. Good evening. It's a great Friday evening. Friday, February 23rd. Erwin Nurse, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Marlene Seeley, good evening. She says, everyone. Marcia, my namesake is on again. Good evening, loyal sons and daughters all. Pray everyone had an awesome day. Yes, I had a fantastic day. A fantastic day. I was digging. I was in my garden planting potato slips. I tell you, you should see me. Wonderful, because I'm taking responsibility, Diana Seeley. I'm taking responsibility, yes, for my own, nutrition, taking responsibility for my health, taking responsibility for my food. We can cut this food bill. We can cut it as a nation if we begin to start everybody start planting something. And we can change. That's one change that we can do. We don't need to wait on the government for everything, Jefferson. Blessed E. Diana Seeley, good evening, good evening, good evening. Sir Alfred from Brooklyn. And that's the thing about it, guys. We are here in Barbados, but the diaspora, they're joining, Diaspora all the way in Germany, wherever they are, they're joining and they're sending me messages from the UK. From all over the US, from Canada. Oh my goodness. All over the diaspora, they are tuned in. They're tuned in because guess what? When they log on, they get education, right, Marcia? Clive Osborne. Good evening, Clive Osborne. Yes, he says good night to all the sons and daughters of the loyal opposition. We are sons and daughters of this soil. We are the loyal sons and daughters, our ancestors, our great-grandparents, and our grandparents will be very, very happy to know what we're doing. Those who died in the 1937 riots will be very, very happy to know what we're doing. We're standing up for this rock. That's what we're doing, and that is awesome. That is awesome. Sandra Franklin Franklin, I'm sorry, welcome. Beverly Prescott, Born Again. Wayne D. Austin, hey. Wonderful. Joel King, wonderful. Joel has been one of our loyal viewers from when I had 30 people. Joel was one of the 30. Tyrone Nurse, Tim Ward, Pauline Maynard, thank you. And I want to say to everybody that's on, thank you for the support. If you don't come on, we do not have a show. This is about us, the people. And that's why I say on Sunday, Jack Sobers, when we have Mr. Ralph Thorne on, I would like for us as a people to be able to speak to him directly. Yeah, I want your questions. It won't be a talk shop where sitting on here discussing and you don't get a chance. No, it's going to be driven by your questions. Yes, and already people are sending in questions, Jack and Ricky Pinder. If you haven't sent in your questions, please do. I know, Ricky, you're in Toronto and you have questions to the diaspora to ask the leader of the opposition, and he will be right here on the Marcia Week show. Listen, we have so much to be thankful for, CG. So many things have happened since we started out, CG. You have been with us for the past seven months. CG has done all of the placards and has been just an ardent supporter and a loyal daughter and of this loyal opposition. And we are grateful for you, CG. But I was documenting, all the victories that we have experienced, and I'm going to play the anthem in a couple of minutes. But let me tell you something. When that anthem is being played, I want you to think about these victories that we have experienced so far. We were able to get them to change the part of that NIS bill where they talked about the state, what the state would be able to do. I can't remember all the phrase now, but you know what I mean. In the NIS bill, yeah. And Caswell was able to point that out on this show. Yes. And they had to go in and they had to make those changes. Yes, to that particular bill. We saw where the tribunal, in terms of the case by an employee against Rubis. You remember that case? Where Caswell, through Unity Workers Union, had such a victory. That's a power of the people again. The power of the people. Yes. When we were able to continually push back on the ID. You remember that? And to where now they have said, no, Nigel, they removed all the deadlines, right? The deadlines, the January 31st deadline was removed. So the first one, Judith, good night, was that they said, listen, it's unlawful in that case with Rubis and the employee and Caswell's union. The tribunal, what did they rule? That it was unlawful to say to employees, you have to take a medical, you have to take that injection before you can be employed. And that was struck down, and that has become now a precedent. That's power to the people, folks. The ID, power to the people. Then the latest thing, the CYBERCRIME bill, they took it back to the drawing board. And even within that time, who remember the child protection bill? And they were galloping with that like on a horse, and they now had to pull it back, and they're now discussing. In fact, what they did, they opened up for the public to speak. That's the power of the people, folks. And I'm here to suggest to you that Goliath is falling. That thing that we thought was so big, Steve Moore, that was so big for us as a people. And we were able to do this by ourselves, not with any politicians, Bev. We did not go and request anything of any politician. The people rose up. The people rose up. Barbadians started to speak out. And we're seeing that even happening with the Homeowners Association at the Atlantic Breeze. They are speaking out. Yes, Marcy. We see schools, little children. I saw there, I think it was St. John Primary, and they had their little placards because of all the marches that they're seeing. People are speaking up now, man. And that is wonderful. All of those are victories, David. Pete Way, and it's your victory. Doriel Clark, it's your victory. Every time you join, you come on Emerson Bab. We are starting a revolution. And this is a revolution not of guns, not of knives, not of sticks, not of stone, but it's a revolution of thought, of consciousness, of changes in behavior. That is the revolution that is happening in Barbados. There is a revolution that is happening, not of guns, not of knives, not of us burning down anywhere. We're burning down wrong thoughts. We're mashing up bad consciousness, and we're understanding who we are. There's a revolution of the mind, and that is what is happening. The first thing is we no longer believe that we are passive, but we are loyal sons and daughters. And with that, I want to go straight into the anthem. And guys, I want us to really reflect on what it is that we are doing as a people, why we join each night, and to say to us, don't give up. They are listening. They are listening, and they are worried. They are worried. Don't give up, my Barbadian people. Folks, it is the pride of nationhood binds our hearts from coast to coast. It is the pride of nationhood. The pride of nationhood is why we come together every Sunday, every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday at 7. It is the pride of nationhood. Can you feel that? Do you feel that? That's why we come together. They don't understand it. They think we're starting a party. They think it's about a party. They said, why don't you start a party? But we come together because of the pride of nationhood. This is why we come together. And this is what binds our hearts from coast to coast, whether we live in Barbados or we're in the diaspora. We are letting the powers that be know that we want our country back. We want back the soul of our country. We, the loyal sons and daughters, we want our country back. That's what this is about. They don't understand it. They think we're being paid. They say we're being paid by people to do this. They call me all kinds of names, but this is it. Yes, this is it. Oh, wow, this is beautiful. I can't get over the anthem. I really can't. I really can't. I can't. Yes. Yes. The power of the people, Ricky Pinda. Let me just say a few more of the comments because it's about you guys. The power of the people is stronger than the people in power. Did you hear how profound that is? That's from a loyal son. The power of the people is stronger than the people in power. And that's why they're going to walk back. Anything. When we stand up, people, they must fall. Regardless of the party, they will go back and they will rethink what they're bringing to us. They will go back, I'm telling you. United we stand. Yes. 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 Alex Michaud said, wake up or die trying. Yes. We're standing now. Yes. A paradigm shift. Yes. Let's speak it out in the atmosphere. I am not taking any negativity. I am not taking any negativity. We have a young man that's coming on now, but I just want to read some of these comments because it encourages us. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. We will keep the pressure on for both the BLP and the DLP. And those of you who are on and you have taken a side and said you are DLP, understand that when you come on here, that there's no party is off limits. If you're a third party, you're not off limits. This is what we're defending here. This is it. This is it. That's what we're defending. We're loyal to this. You hear what I tell you? Don't let them fool you. Because all of them have an objective. They all have an objective. And what we do pray is that it's genuine and it's about this. If it ain't this, we're going to talk about it. I tell you now. Square 4. Good night. Good night. Yes, teaching the little ones to be patriotic. You've got to start it from early. Yes, have to start it from early. Yes. Yes, and Nigel says we're taking our hands. We're taking our hands out of the hands of the corrupt politicians. Correct? Yes. Yeah. You know, Easy D, and after this, I'm going to bring in our esteemed guest. But I just want to hear from you a little bit because it's about you. I really want you to know that's why I open my computer and I come on. It's about my Barbadian people that you know I have grown to love this country and to call it my own. Thanks to my wonderful husband, through him I'm a Bajan. So when they Easy D, when they want to tell me, oh, you know, they're gonna do you like they do Clement Payne, I say, I'm no Clement Payne. I'm no Clement Payne. Go back and tell them I say I'm no Clement Payne. You're up the wrong tree there. I'm not a Clement Payne. Don't compare me with no Clement Payne in the sense that you think that they're gonna put me on a boat and send me. It's no. You're gonna have to revoke my citizenship. Yeah, I have a constitutional right to do what I'm doing. Very well. So you go back and you send that back to those that's trying to send a little warning to me. It ain't no warning because I'm not a Clement Payne. Easy D says, Marcia, you're not wrong because there was no other opposition. That's what That's what we've been saying. There was no other opposition. Now we have a leader of the opposition. We're going to hold him accountable, but we're not going to stop. Oh yes, wonderful. Let me just welcome Theirry Gittens. Good evening, Theirry. Can you hear me, Theirry?
My mic was muted. Sorry. Good evening, Marcia and the Light Opposition.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. It's great to have you here, sir. And I know you were here from the start of the show. I saw you. You stood up when the anthem was playing. As a young man, you're a young man. Why did you stand up? You're in your. I think you're at UWI right now, right?
Yes, please.
Right. You're a university student and you're studying computer science.
Yes, please.
And you're still at the university as presently as we speak, Theirry.
Yes, please. I'm currently
But
here
when
right
the
now.
anthem was playing, you stood up while the anthem was playing, and you were at school. We're not even in the same location. Why did you do that?
Because I love my national anthem.
You
I
do?
love my
Can
national
you speak
anthem.
up a little louder? Just a little louder.
You can hear me better?
Yes, and keep it there.
Right.
Keep the volume higher. Speak up.
I love my national anthem. I think it's one of the best songs in the world. I mean, they got other songs that are Grammy award winning, but I love the national anthem when I hear it. I don't just listen to it for listening sake. I listen to it in terms of the words. Something that stands out to me is these hills and valleys beyond recall. And when we had the Mordecai, I saw them and I was so inspired. I was so in love, and
Wow, you
I
mean
love my country.
when we were going on the motorcade, you were on the truck and you were
Yes,
speaking
please.
to the people of St. John, and I heard you when you saw these fields and hills, as it says, beyond recall are now our very own. I heard you, and what did you say to the people of St. John when you saw that? It was beautiful.
I said I might one right. I was trying to say that basically this is what we are fighting for. We're not fighting for some foreign nation like we did once before. We are fighting for our country, the love of our country. And you mentioned something that stood out to me just now. We're not for the B or the D or any other party. And I have something to say as well with respect to that. Last night, just to show the reach of the Marcia Week show, I was at a restaurant and this lady, she said she's going to be watching tonight, so good night, ma'am. And the other old lady with her, she was saying, Theirry Gittens, you need to join the party. It was tell her, no, ma'am. And what I said to her is that the anthem states that they pledge allegiance to this country called Barbados, and this is just me paraphrasing, and to the flag. I don't pledge allegiance to B, D, A, or G. I pledge allegiance to this country. I love this country very much. I mean, we are small, but we are mighty. As we spoke about the diaspora, and I saw the persons from Toronto, from Calgary, from all parts, and you spoke about them from Germany. I just love this country. I love what we stand for. We are friends of all, satellites of none. I love my country very much.
Yeah, yeah, I know there are people who they're saying it to me as well that we need to be a party. We don't need we have all the things that we've accomplished, Theirry. When I say we, not just the Marcia Week show, but I'm talking about the opposition, the people, because there are many who are pushing like Lumumba and Bongo Lights and there is Fred Corbin and there are many who are pushing. It's not just us at all, but it's the people of Barbados and we've accomplished so much outside of a party, and that's what I want people to recognize that. So I'm glad you told her that. I'm glad you told her that you don't need to join a party to accomplish the things that need to be accomplished. Now, Theirry, Theirry, I know you're on because you want to talk to me about the cybercrime bill as a young person. But before you do, there is something I want to share with the audience where Theirry and Timon, they wrote a poem, right? They wrote a poem, a spoken word on this particular issue of the cybercrime bill. And we're just going to play a short piece of it.
7 years or 70,000 fine. That sounds fine, but study it correctly. You see, 7 is the number of completion. That much and that long to complete what? Complete for the 7 years, complete destruction of identity, complete consumption by the influence of the environment that you're placed in, civil persons with no record to be placed with criminals, they're wasting away for violent crimes, complete degradation of character and minds. You think that them being in the same environment as those violent criminals every day is not going to in some way play on their minds? Is not going to in some way make them more inclined to violent crimes? When they come back on the outside, we already got partners with repeat offenders.
Just because we don't want to fall in line. Imagine a youth going to jail for 7 years, living in a fear, and coming out like an angry youth,
Mm.
like a sheep that was sheared, looking to cause pain for all the pain that they endured. Just because someone sent them something and they were not aware. But Mia cares. Please share. I remember that was the campaign slogan. Share that Mia cares.
Auntie Mia cares, but how Auntie Mia want disown those of her family that look up to her for 7 years?
Hmm. That's a hard question, man. It's like this. When they come out, hard name,
Nothing.
the boy won't look at me. I looked at my minister and said, sorry, please, sir. Give me another chance. I know the bill passed. I know it's I know it's 20,
Nah, 20, 30,
31.
1.
All that time gone.
Gone.
My little brother is 7 years now. When I look at he's look at me like he's goat. But that's a king that sees. But y'all want to operate like y'all is royalty.
We have worked so hard to get away from monarchy,
And we see.
but it's almost as if what we did was go from eating the lettuce that they fed us to hanging out in a cocoon, just waiting for the time to rise like a butterfly, a monarch butterfly, just waiting for the time that we could be our own monarchs, our own kings and queens, but not everybody, not the full populace, just the elites. That's what I see.
Wow. That's just a little piece of it, so deep, and we're not giving all of it away. Where this is going to be on the Africa Bridge TV channel, you're going to be able to go on and be able to see it there, and listen to more of it. Anybody enjoyed that? Was it good for you all? These are young people, and that's the thing, that somebody said nice to send it, to the prime minister. Yes, yes, it's very powerful, Steve, and that's the thing with our young people. This is Theirry there also on the truck, going through. I think this was when he was doing. When was this? I think this must have been the actual motorcade. Right. This must have been the motorcade. Yes, when he was doing the motorcade, right? And that's Theirry. That's Theirry there. And this is just some pictures from the motorcade. Um, but yeah, there's some pictures from the motorcade. Theirry was getting back in. These are people who actually met us on the road as we were driving on that motorcade, and they were waving to us. They came out with their signs. You see them with the signs there. You remember that, Theirry? How did that make you
Yes, I
feel
remember
to
that.
see the people? Could talk about that, to see the people on the roadside.
it felt as though myself and my fellow members of the loyal opposition, we were doing the right thing that day. I saw little children running out to us. You don't have to be pictures of that, but I saw them running out to us. A person might not believe that little children are paying attention to what's going on, but they ran out to us. They knew what was going on, and they waved to us. It was miraculous. It was awe inspiring. It showed me that I'm not the only person that's proud of this country, and it shows that persons might be in silence and not necessarily speak about certain things, but they are proud of this country and they're concerned about the issues that are occurring in the parliamentary level, at the parliamentary level, excuse me, and also at the social level as well.
Yes, yes, wonderful. Now, Theirry, let's you dropped out just after the poem, but let's get back. Let's get back to the poem that you wrote with Timon. What motivates you both to write that poem?
What motivated us was section 19, subsection 3, which states if a person says something true or false, and this is me paraphrasing by the way, you can be charged $70,000 or 7 years. So when we were thinking about it, he was like, all right, well, I am just gonna look at the aspect of, you know, the truth, right? And how the truth is very important for me. I just was like, yo, team, I got an idea. I want to look at how if a person actually was going through it and actually came out of the sentence, how it would occur. And in real life, and I'm gonna say real life compared to that bill, which seems to be a fallacy, persons will go to jail, they will come home, and a lot of persons will not speak to them. They will treat them as their scum. So I wanted to look at that same aspect of being treated that way, and how something as simple as the truth can be now criminalized, right? I kind of speak for my colleague Timon, but just to do him a great honor. Timon was a brilliant poet, and he was the lead. He was the lead director of this piece because we started to freestyle it, and as I said before, he wanted to look at the truth. He wanted to look at how the idea of this bill was just ridiculous, just using logic, like thinking about it like an average person. And he wanted to look at it from a more articulate point of view. And then I tried to use my Bayesian vernacular because, as I said before, it's a comparison of what's fallacy and what's real. And in addition to that, as I said before, the Bayesian contrast with that of the articulate contrast is looking at look, persons such as the political class will speak with the utmost ability, and then there's persons such as myself, or even perceived to be in a lower class, who would just be going through it. So that's why I use my Bayesian dialect when I said, Minister, I know what the bill said. You understand? So a person might come now after going through jail and actually go to the minister and say, no, what the bill said, but he needs some help. You understand? And then you got your little siblings, or you got your family, and the hearing about, oh, you went in jail, and just basically that was it. It was just a contrast of the fallacy versus the real, and then us being Bayesians versus that of the articulate, and using like, all right, the sky is blue. We know that's
Yeah.
logical, but so somebody said the sky is gray. So we just like simple logic. This bill is not logical. That's in conclusion what Timon was trying to do. This bill is not logical, and I was looking at it from a regular Bayesian perspective.
Yeah. I'm listening to you, and I, you say I have a big smile on my face. I want to get an idea from you of what your peers, because you are about what? You're 20 years old. Is it?
21.
You get it? You're 21 years old. So you're in. Are you in third year at UWE?
No, no, this is my second year. In my
You're in
second year.
second year at UWE, and you're 21 years old, and you're looking at this cybercrime bill. Do you discuss this with your friends? Do you discuss this cybercrime bill with your friends? What are they saying?
Well, I can't do the physical reaction, but it was like that basically. It was
Yeah.
basically like apologies. It was basically a physical and facial reaction. Like you can't be serious. That what you saying to make any sense? And they explained it to them in profuse detail, and it was like, nah, this ain't real. So that's why I keep saying to you, like you need an Instagram because young people are very upset. From the ones I spoke to about this bill, the ones that know about it, through me, they they're very upset about this bill.
Yeah. I'm wondering, is there anything that can be done to mobilize that age group of young people? say 21 and under, where we get their voice, whether it is a polling of them, because the thing is, Theirry, we cannot sit down and twiddle our fingers. It's the fight. It's not over yet. They said 3 months, and they're going to come back. They have now put, it's now in review, a parliamentary committee. They are reviewing the bill, and they said they will be back in 3 months. What do you think that age group, 21 and under, how could you do you think you can mobilize them so that their voice as a unit can be heard?
Me alone, I don't think I could do it. I think you should target the persons who are most popular in this the social sphere. I won't call the names, but we will discuss that afterwards. But those are the persons you need to talk to. All right, and one is very known. His initials are JE. I'm pretty sure if he heard about what's going on, he'll be quite upset about this because it limits his ability as well to speak about certain aspects that he speaks about. And also, there's another social platform, WC. Persons could know who that is, and you should mobilize those persons. Me alone, Theirry Gittens, I am not a social influencer, but those persons for sure, those are the person you want to target. If you really want to get to the young persons, you want to target those persons.
Yes. Well, it is something that I believe that the loyal opposition, they've been asking for it. And I know that if it is that we've got to pay for it, they will pay. The loyal opposition will make sure that we can reach those influencers, Judith and Clark is saying, because Judith, the important thing is that we cannot sit down and wait. Our young people will be locked up. I tell you, you understand, Theirry? We can't sit down. As Marcia, my namesake, says here, it is that age group. Where's your comment? I don't see it, Marcia. Okay, she says here, that age group is going to be the most affected if we don't continue to push back. She meant affected.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. That's why in my piece with Timon, I was looking at, as I said, someone who actually went to jail. Those are the persons who are going to get put in jail. And I mentioned the persons who were at the motorcade would have remember what I said. But for those who weren't there, I said that pretty much look at this beautiful scenery that belongs to us. If you go to jail, you can't see it anymore just because you wanted to tell the truth. Is that right? It's not logical. So yeah.
And I think the part of the bill that I realize that bothers you the most is the fact that it's, even if it is true, once a person is offended or they feel insulted, then you could go to jail for 7 years. For the truth.
Yeah, there's other parts of the bill that I'm not quite upset about, right? But obviously we don't have the time to discuss it. But I would just go into short detail. Paraphrasing, there's a party bill, and a legal person could correct me if I'm wrong, but it mentions the police having certain powers. I'm a computer science student. I don't know nothing about law, but from being a novice and a regular citizen, it mentions the police having the ability to take your device, right? And also, you have to give them access to your password. Someone who's in legal field could message me and tell me if I'm wrong or right. But to me, that upsets me as well. But with respect to what you spoke about, my man, yes, it hurts me deeply because, as I said before, the influencers, they speak about things that are true and are necessary to have a conversation about that happen in our society. It's imperative, right? I don't wish to bloviate about that aspect, but for me personally, the truth must be protected digitally and also in real life, right? It must be protected.
Yeah. Actually, the section of the bill that you were alluding to a while ago about where the police has that kind of power, Neil Harper, who he is a cybercrime, he's an expert in this cyber expert, and who has helped many countries, in putting these kinds of bills together. He's sounding a big alarm, and we have to give a lot of credit to him. Theirry. And he says the cybercrime bill also gives the courts and the law enforcement expansive powers to confiscate persons' devices, example, computers, laptops, tablets, mobile phones, etc., on spurious grounds. The bill also the bill allows law enforcement to force you to give them access to your devices or charge you for not complying. So you're correct. The bill allows the courts and law enforcement to force Digicel or Flow to provide all your location data from cell towers, all your internet browsing activity, and metadata about you, who you call, how often you call them, the length of your conversations, etc., without sufficient legal basis. The bill grants the law enforcement the authority to intercept your communications and store this data indefinitely with only the oath of a police officer as the basis for obtaining the warrant. The bill also guarantees sufficient protection of your personal data when police officers keep it. It doesn't guarantee, I needed to say, the bill does not guarantee sufficient protection of your personal data when police officers keep it indefinitely, allowing for persons to violate your privacy rights or tamper with evidence before it reaches the courts. It can essentially create a surveillance society and an environment for rampant personal data misuse and abuse, and without the necessary checks and balances and or independent oversight. And he says these should be major concerns for every citizen of Barbados. And that's why, Theirry, you are concerned tonight about it. You're a computer science student. I know we're a little past our time, but let's spend another 5 minutes. I haven't seen Mr. Franklin just yet. Um, what part of this, as a computer science student, you understand the whole thing about passwords and so on. And you're a citizen, but as a computer science student, what about this that really bothers you?
Well, it bothers me from the aspect of understanding that, all right, we're in an age whereby, yes, in the bill it states that police officers would have the ability to ask you to give them the password, but they don't need to. Understand? There are artificial intelligence that can hack and crack your password.
Mm-hmm.
That is dangerous for a potential police state, right? That's what bothers me. It also bothers me is that this bill, in my novice view, allows for officers under oath to be able to then have access to vital and critical information, given that we already are having issues with certain, I don't even want to use the word police officers, that's too honorable to give them a name. They're persons who are in the force that make a bad name for the great officers that we have out there. Those persons, right? That's concerning to me, right? I don't, and I'm not speaking from a subjective point of view. Any person who disagrees with me, you can go and check on the influencers pages, and you will see the discrepancies and also the various atrocities that these persons have committed. It's been well detailed countlessly, and the proof is there, right? That disturbs me that you're giving those persons more power to do greater harm and cause greater distrust for the honorable institution that is the police. The Barbados Police Service. I forget it's not Barbados Police Force anymore, but the Barbados Police Service. That concerns me.
Yeah. ECD is saying that I guess with the police asking for passwords, etc. This
My
may be
my
referred. Yes.
my device is going to drop. I have to go and get my.
Yes, and you're past your time. So let me
Yes,
just
please.
thank you so much, Theirry, for joining us. And that poetry, tell Timon, you guys have to come to the next roadside parliament and perform it live, which is going to be in Christchurch in Oistins. Listen
Uh,
out for that. I hope you are able to come and to perform it live for us. You promise?
it depends on Timon. Depends on Timon.
I know you all are studying. You had an exam this week, and we want you to. I'm going to talk to you about getting this being discussed at UWI. Somebody's asking, is it being discussed among the university students? Okay. God bless you, Theirry, and thank you for coming on. You're
Thank
a
you. Thank you.
blessing. God bless you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you, Theory. Someone is saying Easy D is asking he's saying the police might be asking for password, etc. This may be referring to people posting child abuse bits online. Yes, and they should. They should for those things, Easy D. The problem is not that part of the bill, as we've been saying. There are parts of the bill that are very, very important. They're parts of the bill that's brilliant and it protects children and so on. But you know how they do these things, they wrap other things inside of there. And we are talking about this surveillance that seems to be coming at us, and the removal of our constitutional rights. So we want to be able to do those things, but you can't lock up somebody and say because they're telling the truth. What about even the GIS situation? Who remembers the GIS situation? What about that? Right? The fact that the GIS situation was put on Facebook. It was because they put it online. Really and truly, why it actually worked, and how we fought using social media for those children in GIS. Outside of that, it would not have been resolved that quickly. There are many, many things that would not have been resolved if it had not been for social media. So you can't say that if you're putting truth out there, you will have to spend 7 years in jail. What about those GIS children? The little kid who was in the cell, tied up like an animal. We saw that on social media. And that was truth. So whoever took that picture and put it on social media, you're gonna tell me that you're gonna lock up people for that? Think about that. Let us think about that. That's not what we're doing. That we're not talking about people selling treats online and trying to sell doing pornography with child pornography. No, obviously not. Obviously not. But truth. Mr. Franklin is here. I can see that he's getting ready. I don't know if he's all ready. Are you ready, Mr. Franklin? Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We missed you the other night, sir. We really did.
Well, I'm so sorry about that. I tried to get in. I came in for a little bit, but my device, I was in police station. I was not accused. I was not under arrest or anything. I was accompanying one of my members who was wrongly accused. And I went to help him during the process. And the police are a bit meticulous. They try to, and they take the time. They don't hurry. So they didn't have regard the fact they want to be on the show, they did their job, and, and I'll tell you something, some people talk about the police, but I find that I butt up on a remarkable set of people at that station, and before we got to the station, because there was an arrest involved, and the police handle it professionally, they handle it with care. Because sometimes you see the police go out into neighborhoods and they got some thugs, and the thugs won't beat the police. The police can't act like ladies and gentlemen when somebody wants to kill them. So they have to respond in kind. They were not threatened in any way in this scenario that I was involved in, and they were very professional. They were very good. They said to the person, look, you're under arrest, but we don't want to embarrass you. So we're going to let you walk out on your own. We're not going to handcuff you, not going to anything. And you can even drive your car, we'll follow you. That is like, people, I saw that. I appreciated it, and I am grateful. I went with the guy. I knew he wouldn't have walked away or run away or anything, but I went with him because I make sure that that I don't abuse the police trust. So when you say one, you got to say the next. Police go out there and everybody, you see people rush out, want to beat them. Now what the police are going to do? Sit down and behave like nice little Boy Scouts and get beaten? Or they got to stand up and fight back, fire by fire. To this time, we had no fire, and the police were professional, they were courteous, they were everything that you would expect from people. But you give what you get. And I
Correct.
suspect that is what happens in a lot of these scenarios. But you see it. You see people. I had to say to myself, look, when the police, if I hear somebody in my yard tonight, you think, oh, say, they calling the police. So we need them. So we can't treat them badly and then expect, well, you're treating them badly, people cursing them, telling them about God knows what. And then you put it on social media and you put your slant to it. And then every policeman now becomes a problem. Every police is a monster. And that's not so. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that they're not bad police. I'm not saying that they're not bad a lot of things. But all are not like that. And you have to judge each person on his own. And don't go ahead. Anyhow, I don't want to come to talk about that. Hey, so before I come,
Yeah.
I should have said good night to everyone. And thank you for having me back tonight. I didn't abandon you. As you heard what it was doing. And it was necessary, because
Yeah.
when you are a trade unionist, you don't half represent people. His lawyer, we tried to get a lawyer for him, and he had a lawyer, but the lawyer was engaged elsewhere, and he couldn't make it. So
Mm-hmm.
not, I didn't pretend to be a lawyer. I went and accompanied him so that he would have some sort of assurance.
Yes.
I don't even think he needed me the way the police treated him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good, not good that he was arrested, but it was good that the police did their duty in such a professional manner. I really feel that I should write a letter to the commissioner commending them, and I
Yes.
think I'll do that because they don't get that often. It is like you go to the hospital and you have some nurses in the A&E who are stressed out to the limit. Sometimes you don't feel like they're human beings, and sometimes some don't behave like they're human beings. But
Mm-hmm.
it is the stress, it is the burden that they have to go. Imagine, public servants are not public slaves, and they're human beings, and they have feelings, they have everything everybody else in the private side has. No, so when you go into there, like the first back in police station, I went there around 3 o'clock. I left after 10, and the same policeman was there at the desk. He did not go for lunch or dinner or whatever had you. He went to the machine to get a drink and a pack of biscuits and stuff because nobody else was there. The people short, staff all over the place, and the fellas fought. He didn't. He just stayed there. I asked
Yeah.
him. I tell him, you guys need a union. You know, I remember the former commissioner who just recently died some years ago. When he was commissioner, I told him, you need to let the police persuade the government, let the police join unions. He said that will not happen in my lifetime, but it was right. He passed recently, but I really feel that they need um, um, representation from a trade union, not necessarily unity workers. They can form their own. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that we want them to strike because there are certain things that you don't want. For instance, you wouldn't expect the fire service to go on strike, or anything like that because the day they go on strike, somebody might go and light somebody's house. But you
Yeah.
want to be able to bargain for their conditions of service. You want to be able to get be able to speak up for themselves. Like for instance, under the acts that govern the Fire Service Association and the Police Association, the police don't have authority even to bargain for their own wages. The same thing applied to the prison officers until we took it to court and had that ruling declared unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, prison officers did not have the right even to represent each other at a disciplinary hearing.
Yes.
So I'm hopeful that people would see that this is no longer the days when the British down here lording over us and they don't want any opposition or want anything, so they treated us like second class citizens. And what hurts me is that the things that the British used to get, and know that our civil servants are mostly public agents. The successive governments have been dismantling them, to the detriment of public officers. Like for instance, they had something called um I'm trying to remember the name. Where you get travel. You allow travel overseas at the government's expense once or twice in your career. But that was for mainly for the public officers who came from England, and they
Mm-hmm.
would get a free trip home to look for their families. And that got abolished by Tom Adams, as a matter of fact, he abolished it for anybody coming into the public service after the 1st of January 1980. That bothered me tremendously because I came into the public service on the 2nd of January 1980. So I missed it by a day. Leave passage, they call it. You know, the pension arrangements, you know, what they would do is to abolish your post and let you go back home and get a pension till you die. Be it, and at whatever age, the courts in Barbados, now CCJ in particular, they have misinterpreted that, and governments have been abusing that provision by making public officers redundant. They call it abolishing the post, of making them redundant and not paying them. Said about they're not entitled to severance pay because they're pensionable, and they're not entitled to any money until they reach 60. So you imagine sending home somebody at 45 years old who's had 10 years service, and he cannot get a cent from the government. That cannot be right. It was a misinterpretation of the act put in place by Al Barra in 1974, but the courts made a mistake, and people now acknowledge that it was wrong, but nobody will fix it. Government really doesn't care about. I can give you horror stories about things. I remember, like, that there is a protection of wages bill being circulated to stakeholders. They sent it to me last week for comment by today. Last Friday, and I was supposed to comment by today. And they begged me not to go on Rasax or the March Week show and talk about it before I comment with them. But so I'm not going to comment on this. I tell them, okay, I'm not going to the show and talk about it. I'm not going to talk to brass tacks about it. But I remember doing some research, and there was an amendment to the Protection of Wages Act that would have been better for public officers. And the Barbados Labour Party kicked dirt, saying that it is wrong, you know, and the government can do that. Mind you, it was to be better for the workers. I actually copied out some of the things that they were complaining about. You know, there were things like you can't pay people in a rum shop, because if you pay, unless you work in a rum shop, you can't pay in a rum shop. That's an offense. You know, they oppose things like that. They're opposing things like you cannot pay people in anything other than legal tender. The Democratic Party put those amendments in, and the Barbados Labour Party fought against them. So you see what is happening now. It is part of their history to treating workers badly, or even when they couldn't treat them badly, they're opposed to good treatment for workers. So I see the Prime Minister in the papers today talking about she's going to do this for the nurses and do that for the nurses. She does not understand what the nurses need. I'll give you an example. Nurses start at the level of senior clerk in the public service. And a senior clerk, the salary is there $23.17. And but you have to have an associate degree, and you don't have an associate degree to be a senior clerk. And then now you have to do a 3-year degree, a 4-year degree to be a nurse, and you're getting the same as a senior clerk who need 4 levels or something like that. It is not fair. It is not right. It is not just. So nurses need a better salary overall. And I can tell you why nurses are going to New York and staying. A nurse with a bachelor's degree leaving Barbados and going to New York, and I've actually facilitated 1 or 2 of them, and they called me back to say thank you, because their starting salary was $98,000 per annum, right? A nurse in Barbados dollars, their starting salary is $40,820.12, Barbados dollars. So if a nurse can go into New York and earn $98,000, you think they're going to stay here? A lot of them stay because they got children and they have families to take care of. But if you don't have those type of responsibilities, the nurse is going to leave. You're going to leave because Belgian nurses are very well trained, right? And they are, as a matter of fact, they make it hard for them to pass. I think the course is made too hard, and I don't no problem. I don't have any problems with that because when you make nurses available to the public who just barely pass and that kind of stuff, they might kill people. So when you make it tough for them to get there, you raise the standards. So every time a person they put on their CV that they got the degree from the community college, bachelor's degree from Barbados, they swap them up, they grabble them up in the United States and Canada. One of my other nurses who was a mate in the nurses committee, she just gone to Canada, and she told me she ain't coming back because the thing's so good. She only went on holiday and went and make some inquiries, and after she made the inquiries, she said, "Well, I stopping," you know. So she would let the people know at her institution that she ain't coming back after. But she didn't go looking for a job. She went up there, and because nurses are such demand up there, and good nurses from, mind you, from Jamaica and Barbados, they they gobbled them up, and you paying them pittance when they can go and start at 98,000 US. You started them here in Barbados at 40,820 dollars. You really believe that a person who doesn't have any ties to hold them here and stay here? Young people are mobile these days, you know, and they can go. Families is what keep these nurses in Barbados. When the Nigerian nurses, the Ghanaian nurses, and anybody can't come to Barbados, a lot of them leave very quickly thereafter because on their CV now is that they're staff nurse in Barbados. So they just pass through Barbados to get the Barbados thing on their thing, and they're gone. A lot of them just go.
You know, Mr. Franklin, if I may just insert something here, that I wrote that down to say to you that because we are connected with some of them and we realize that Barbados, they're not coming here because, generally speaking, they have any commitment to Barbados. We need to understand that this Barbados is really, as much as I love them, but I realize that Barbados is a stepping stone. It
Yes.
is a close. When they come to Barbados, they're closer to the U.S., to Canada, and where it's really where they want to go. They don't plan to stay here. They're not. So then bringing in all these nurses in here, it's not really an investment into Barbados. It's a fact Mr. Franklin is talking about, and this is truth. That sometimes we say these things and they say we come on here and give an our opinion. I am telling you facts because we've had to deal with these nurses on for other things. The Ghanaian, because you know we do some work with the movies and so on with Africa, and I'm telling you, Mr. Franklin is correct. And I was only a couple Sundays there thinking about it that the government, what are they thinking that they're doing? They're not coming here because they're committed to Barbadians. They are trying to seek a better life, just like the nurses here. So that's why we're in this position. Yes.
So the Prime Minister, in her simplicity, because she's a very simple woman, you know, people say she talks pretty, but she's simple and she does not understand a lot of things that she speaks on. Now she's talking about making another assistant director or what they call them at the nursing at the hospital. You don't need more management at these institutions. You need nurses that can take care of people. So rather than get more chiefs, she need Indians, not chiefs. So what she should be doing is trying to, because these nurses are what's called flexing, working other shifts and stop working overtime, leaving the polyclinic and go and work at the hospital because the hospital ain't got enough nurses. So rather than employ more people at the top because, to sit down in offices and shuffle paper, because that's mostly what they can do. And I can tell you, the people in the nursing profession, they are the most dangerous things to themselves, the other nurses, once you reach the top. And it seems, I heard one of the former presidents of the Barbados Nurses Association. She's in a meeting with me, and they was complaining about how the senior nurses are treating the younger nurses. And she started up, she said, she admitted it, and she said, but nurses are known for eating their young. That is her comment. She said the nurses eat their young. They try their best to destroy them. And I don't understand why. But every opportunity you get, we have instances where we have a nurse who has young children. The husband works during the day, and she asked, let's talk about babies, and she asked for permission to work at night, so that the husband would keep them at night, and she would come home in the morning and keep the children. And it's working good, no problems at all. And they got some other nurses who really want to work there, and the nursing officer tell them, no, you got to work there. And so when they force the nurses to stop home, you have two people willing, one want to work all day and one want to work all night to accommodate their circumstances. You could shift the two of them. The people in the nursing office say, no, we are doing that just to spite them. I don't know. I complain to the former Minister of Health. I complain to the former Permanent Secretary about these things. Nurses, for instance, nurses go on training. You get you go do midwifery, you do gerontology or whatever else you do in the nursing profession, you get more money for it. Now, the nurse that stood up in my union's case, they're not letting her do midwifery now. But that's gonna be a big noise just now, because I ain't standing for it. Because they're victimizing her, because she was the nurse who was my delegate at the polyclinic. Cause I tell you, I don't know about nursing. I gotta get somebody to advise me. So the nurse that advised me now is the one that they're victimizing.
Wow.
And I am not going to stand for it, even if I gotta take them to court, because it is an offense in Barbados under the Trade Union Act, Section 40A. If they're doing what they are doing to her, it's a criminal offense. I gotta ask the police to prosecute, and if the police don't do it, I will get a lawyer and file a private criminal prosecution against them. These are evil people. The Constitution guarantee you rights as a trade union to join or form a trade union, and you have that right under the Constitution. It's the Constitution specifically speaks to trade unions. But if you exercise your rights, these people get vexed with you. And the only trade unions that people, the government want to respect are the ones that the Prime Minister controls. And that I intended to start with this, but I get to it now. Just recently passed, it was the Labor Causes Concessions Act was passed recently in the Senate. That act was intended to protect the Barbados Workers Union, because they are faltering. They're not, the members are leaving in droves, and the Barbados Workers Union does not have an answer. So they came up with this thing. And how I know this? Tony Moore said it on CBC, on the CBC News on the 4th, I think it was the 4th of October. I sent you the clip earlier on your phone.
Yes, okay.
And that newscast showed the lie, and I'm going to call it a lie, to what the government was saying about the motives for bringing this concessions bill into place. Well, Concessions Act as it is now, because it's been passed.
Yeah.
All happened, BW had some fights with the hotels. And I will tell you now, a lot of the things that BW was saying are true. I am not going to deny it. A lot of things they were saying was true, because hotels, they have some hotels like Sandy Lane, for instance, Sandy Lane cut people's salary by 48% during COVID. Take barmen and make them cut grass and all kind of thing, you know, because they decide, not white barmen or nothing, but other the black people. People barmen had to paint, you know, and to do it at 48% less. And nobody stood up to them. And nobody will stand up to Sandy Lane because Sandy Lane always telling you, well, we don't need Barbados, we could shut it down. That's their threat, you know, because Sandy Lane is a 5-diamond hotel or whatever they call it. And they seem to be holding the government by the short and curlies, and they do whatever they like. Sandals is another monster. Up to this morning, I got a wake-up call. Somebody from Sandals that treats the workers very badly. You know, I go up there on occasion to represent workers, and some of these things, and the thing is, who treat the people very badly? The black people who are employed at management level and at senior and supervisory level, they take advantage because they have people breathing on their necks, so they don't take it up on the ordinary staff members. You go some hotels, I tell you, they steal the service charge, which is true. So Barbados Workers Union was not lying. The problem there is that nobody in the hotels had any respect for the Barbados Workers Union, because I remember going to a hotel one day. This guy, his relative called me and asked me if I would go and represent him. And I said to him, I said I was going to talk to him first to find out, because I don't like the idea of people not being in the union. I don't care if it's union, you should be in the union. So I asked him, why are you not in the union? He told me, Mr. Franklin, I am a sous chef. I work and I sit down and I watch the members of the union come in here and sit down and eat lobster and get up and just sign something and go out and leave. They can't represent me, they're selling it out. I said, okay, I will represent you. And because I wasn't going to say, but if he's telling me, oh, I joined the union because of nothing, no, just $26 going to be able to kill him. But when he told me that the people from the union go to these places and they get free food and all kind of stuff, and then the workers' issues are not properly addressed, I said, look, I can represent you. I went to the meeting and I fought like a tiger, and we won the case, and he wasn't fired because they had him to fire, you know. So you see, it is not, they're not lying. It is just that the workers don't have any respect for them, because you imagine in the entire hotel industry in Barbados with 14,000 employees, Barbados Workers Union had 434. So that tells the story. There are several hotel properties in Barbados that need union representation, but they will not go anywhere near the Barbados Workers Union because of past experience. So the government came about and they come up with this idea now that if you get concessions from the government, then you will lose those concessions if you don't comply with the collective agreement in the hotels. But the most representative hotel, they have 400 people. So they were the most representative because the boys got a whole set of people in the hotels. And you people don't recruit people in hotels. You know? So this was an attempt by the government to shore up the Barbados Workers Union. But the legislation was not thought out properly. It was like a hodgepodge of nonsense because they want to do it fast, because they can't. The Barbados Workers Union cannot continue to fall to the way that it is and remain a viable entity. So the government got to either support it with this money, pay rent to some place that they don't need. They pay rent for the labor college rather than train people at the labor college. That's the biggest travesty in the country, because I also trained at labor college too. And I tell you that some of the things that I was taught at the labor college, I still use today. I was trained in it used to be called the George Mini Center for Labor Studies when I was there, and I also went to the ILO training center in Italy. nice trips. You know, I saw a lot of things, eat some fancy food I never saw in Barbados and thing, but the content did not compare with what we had either at the Barbados Workers Union or the Public Workers Academy of the National Union of Public Workers. So you get better training locally. Mind you, I didn't mind the trips. You know, after all, it was free. I get per diems and all kind of stuff, and I get to see some place. But the better training was here, and they shut it down. They don't do the training anymore, and it is bad. But watch, this concessions bill seeks to, as Tony Moore said, that the union no one got to enforce these agreements. You have an agreement with the union, a collective agreement in between employer and the union is binding in honor. And if the employer breached the agreement, you can't take him to court. So what you do, you call a strike, or you sick out or do something to bring them back into the heel. No, this legislation will be forcing the employer, will be doing the work of the union. The government now will be doing the work of the union. So the union don't need to exist if its work is being done by the labor department. And and what is also strange, one of the appeals, if the minister decides that he's going to revoke or suspend your concessions, and you are aggrieved by that, you go to the Barbados Revenue Appeals Tribunal. That's the tribunal under BRA, where if the BRA does something and you don't like it, like you have a problem with your taxes or whatever that you have to pay at BRA, and you have an issue, it goes to this tribunal. So why would the government want to put in place appeals to the Revenue Appeals Tribunal, the Barbados Revenue Appeals Tribunal? That does not make sense. That is set up for BRA and taxpayers. This has got nothing to do with taxes, you know. But so why the person there, you know why? Because it was not properly thought out. You have a situation where the legislation that the concessions or you get the concessions under the Duties, Taxes, and Other Payments Exemptions Act, the Shipping Incentives Act, the Small Business Development Act, the Special Development Act, and the Tourism Development Act. These are the pieces. These are the concessions. Now, if you breach the pieces of legislation, like the Employment Rights Act, it is the Employment Rights Act, the Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act, Sexual Harassment Prevention Act, and Labor Clauses, Public Contracts Act, the Labor Department Act, Protection of Wages Act, Safety and Health at Work, Early Shops Act. Each one of these already have some mechanism to enforce the provisions of this act. For instance, the Employment Rights Act, the Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act, and the Employment Sexual Harassment Prevention Act. All of these your route is to the tribunal, the Employment Rights Tribunal. The labor officer at first to conciliate, and if there's no agreement at the conciliation, then the chief labor officer has to, he has to forward it to the tribunal for conciliation. So why do you need a minister to do what you already set up? You have legitimate tribunals set up to establish. And up to now, while I'm on tribunals, Chris Blackman admitted office as the chairman of the tribunal almost a year ago. These people have not replaced the chairman of the Employment Rights Tribunal no. And I hear the minister giving some stupid excuse, but mind you, that's the only kind of excuse he can give. Marcia, you're muted.
I was saying what is odd about that, and I wish we had some more time to talk about this, is the fact that this is the same government that didn't replace the chairman of the tribunal. They're talking about labor, rights of workers. You would think that they would want to replace him as soon as possible. But we're gonna break this thought now, Mr. Frank. We're gonna get back after 9, and we're gonna open up for some more discussion. And but time is going. The time flies so fast. And so I have Mr. Stuart here, and we want to thank you as always for educating us about the plight of workers in Barbados. We talked about the nurses, the police, even the police that we talked about tonight, and you're advocating that they join a union, and here we are talking about this concessions bill. But let me just use the opportunity to welcome Kemar Stuart. Welcome, Kemar.
Hi, Marcia. Thank you for having me on the show. Good evening to you, and good evening to Caswell, and good evening
Good
to
evening.
all
Good
of
to
the
see you.
members.
Miss you. The last show.
Yeah. Well, you missed some interesting information. We got to speak about what was happening with those lads at the whole project in great detail, and we see on CBC now they're speaking about another housing project happening at Chancery Lane.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And
The,
before
the
you,
the guy had sent the information to me because apparently CBC wasn't bringing it, so he sent it to me to pass on. But then we saw it on CBC, so I didn't
yeah.
I'm not comment on
Well,
it on
we
this
must
show.
commend CBC. We must, because when it's good, we need to be able to say good. I was pleasantly surprised that CBC carried that issue at Atlantic Breeze. Atlantic, my tongue tied there. Atlantic Breeze. Of however they got a letter in the tail, right? According
Yeah.
they got a letter in their tail from Preconco. Well, the homeowners association there at Atlantic Breeze, they have some discrepancies, some challenges. And what we must commend them for, Mr. Franklin and Kemar, is that they actually try to do something about it. And I would love Kemar to jump into this, but I just want to say, so we don't get any letter in our tail, that according to this letter that was sent to CBC, Preconco is saying that they have responded to all of the complaints that were received through the proper channels. And according to Preconco, the proper channels are through the attorney or through Preconco themselves. Okay, so the Preconco is saying, listen, we have taken care, we have responded to all of the challenges. Okay, we have addressed them, we've resolved them, and or some are being probably in the process of being resolved. So we want to make sure that we put out that information there, that Preconco is saying that they have done that. But I must commend the people that have formed the homeowners association at Atlantic Breeze, because there seem to be some discrepancy there, Kemar, where Preconco is saying that they're taking care of them, but then these
But
homeowners
they don't know that.
that are not. So Kemar, what are your
No,
thoughts about that?
sorry, Marcia. You said something there just now about commending CBC. Don't commend CBC yet. I'll do quickly. One, they sent one of the most junior reporters. And two, how come they didn't go and cover your matter? Because the politicians didn't want your matter out there. The politicians want this out there, like they're having some little friction between the politicians now and Preconco. Something is going on, or not, that will not see the light of there on CBC. Don't let anybody fool you. CBC, nothing comes through CBC unless the government approves it. So the government want this to happen. They want this exposure because now they want to distance themselves from this man a little bit, So they use CBC now to get at them. Don't. I know these people. I
I
work
still
with them.
commend them because they never had. I mean, I love the fact. What I'm commending is the fact that we are hearing from the citizens, and I think that is still wonderful. Of course, the motivation might be wrong, But Kemar, can you what are your thoughts about that? There seem to be some discrepancy with the way Pre-Congo, they're saying that they are responding. This is what Pre-Congo is saying, and they said they have receipts. They have all the paperwork to show that they are responding or responded. They've taken care. They've resolved those issues. But then the people are still showing the pictures with the big craters in their wall. What's going on there?
Well, strange enough, Marcia, um, I am looking at a writing here, a piece of writing here that says, and I want to quote, it was from a brass stats program that Minister, what you call him though, Minister Dubai?
Mr. Dubai.
Yeah, it was a statement that Minister Dubai made, and he said he told
Although
brass.
I'm told not to call people names on here, but go ahead.
All right, do good, whatever.
Mr. Do good, yes,
Yeah,
do good.
do good. Right.
We haven't done that for a long time.
It's saying here that the award of construction contracts under the government's new $250 million project was transparent and above board. He said that 18 contractors submitted expressions of interest in the whole project, and after thorough evaluation, 15 were selected, and all will get the opportunity to be a part of the project. However, when the callers called in, the callers on the program raised the fact that Preconco was being awarded the contract to develop the premium housing project at Chancery Lane, Christchurch, without going through a tender.
Okay, repeat that again. Where did you get that information?
This was written in the newspaper Barbados Today, March 17th, 2021. Right? That
So you're reading from a newspaper. They're saying that Pre-Conco, the allegation by the newspaper, by that article, is that Pre-Conco got the contract without going through the proper channel.
yes, that's what the article is saying. And last show we spoke about the fact that during COVID, remember during COVID, the Emergency Management Act and the state of emergency, right, says that Parliament vests all authority in cabinet to make whatever decisions necessary for the best functioning of the country. So that involved any financial, legal, anything at all. Cabinet took the power to run the country for itself. However, in that same bill, the next line it came back and it said, Cabinet now vests all of that authority into the office of the Prime Minister. Right? So then the office of the Prime Minister allegedly issued an emergency directive to go ahead and to build these houses at Chancery Lane, and remember, allegedly without tender, order straight from the office of Prime Ministership, build those houses at Chancery Lane, and to go ahead and build those houses at the Pool Project Lancaster in St. James, Pool at St. John, Collington in St. John, and Collington in St. Lucie, all without tender. Okay? Because remember,
according to that newspaper article, so that's what they're alleging.
Yes, right. It was also said, and you got to watch what I'm saying here, because I don't want any letters. It was also said, and people made accusations on the radio that the houses were not of quality and that they were substandard materials. Allegations, right? The chairman of Hope came back and denied that and said that the government was building quality finished houses that anybody would be proud to live in, right? And say that he has people, and I could bring it right up on the screen here because I have my
Yeah, go ahead.
I have my facts here. Right, the chairman of the whole project said that, I just want to quote him directly. He said that Barbados is confident that the houses they built are quality finishes. And he said this after complaints about the quality of work done on the housing schemes. He He said that we are building homes that will be specifically designed to stand up to hurricanes. We don't. He said we don't just turn it over to builders. When they say we are construction management, and we have technical staff at Hope that are continuously on site, interacting with the persons that are building for us, overseeing the quality and asking the questions. So how did we get here to the homeowners association making those claims if the chairman of Hope is saying that, right? But this goes much deeper, and I want to indulge the audience, if you know mind, Marcia, um, into what we discussed last time and the connection that it has to these houses at Chancery Lane. Can you see my screen properly?
Yes.
Right. So as you can see here, we have the Hope housing scandal. That is what we call it. This is hardwood housing part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I hope the persons on here can remember the hardwood housing scandal. This is
Can
what
I pause you right there and say to everybody, guys, I haven't said it for the night. We're asking you to share. This is very, very important information. We want to, Kemar has done research and we want you to share, take a moment, share the live. If you haven't done it, get that algorithm going and remind people about it, and like. Have you liked? There are 800 and something of you are watching. Have you liked the show as yet? Have you shared the show? Everybody. So let's do that now, okay? Go ahead, Kemar.
Yes, thank you very much. As you can see here, the heading of this evening's presentation is the Hope housing scandal, and that exactly what it is, a scandal of epic proportions happening as it relates to the housing policy of the government. And I will just go straight into it here. Click on it. Right. The content of the presentation is understanding what the whole project was, the persons involved, and a little bit about the Clico/Res Life situation. Right. That is important, and we need to remember that. So, as you know, the Hope project, or the entity called Hope, was a state-owned enterprise created under the BERT plan with the IMF to tackle the issue of housing in Barbados. Now, they restructured the NHC and shut down operational aspects of the National Housing Corporation and created a new entity called Hope, which was responsible for the building of government houses. Right? When I check out the records of Hope, NHC owed entrepreneurs, people who did work for the government, millions of dollars. So they shut down that old entity to get away from paying back the people who they owe debts to. They shut it down, right? They didn't shut it down for any other reason. And I can make that claim because they owed Rotterly Construction X amount of millions, right? When Rotterly Construction then shut down, the principal director at Rotterly Construction was then placed on the board of Hope. Right? I want to call any names because I don't want any letters coming at me tonight. Right? But when Rotterly shut down, they put the principal director of Rotterly Construction on the board of Hope. Right? So essentially what Hope was, home ownership providing energy. So they are saying that the government was going to roll out this plan, giving you free land. You didn't have to pay for the land at all. None of the land on the whole project you had to pay for, right? The government was providing you free of cost. You had when it comes to 2 and 3 bedroom houses, and the prices were at $250,000, right? And as I said previously, the land is provided at no cost to the buyer, and the only thing you paid for was the construction of the house. And 100% mortgages were available for the construction of those houses, right? And if you remember, the Minister Dwight Sunderland coming out and saying in a statement that the reason for the stalled project was that they have banking issues and utility issues. That is true because you can't get any access to financing from the banks if you do not have title deeds, right? So the banks are refusing to back this project financially because they did not have title deeds. They should have known that. The government should have known that, but the government either probably tricked the financial institutions who signed on to this project, giving them the impression that they had ownership of the lands, and then banks are required to do their financial investigations, and they found out that the government did not have the title deeds, and the banks pulled back because according to the international standards, the banks cannot facilitate those level of transactions because it didn't have the title deeds. So the project was doomed from that aspect, right? What they were saying to people is that instead of paying for the land, each home owner must allow Hope, which is government, to install PV systems on their roofs for 20 years rent free. And then after 20 years, the government then gives the owner of that house the PV system for free. And realistically, these systems only last 25 years. So you will get the last 5 years, their claim, in financial rewards back from the grid. However, remember that Light Power is playing hardball with the government and they cannot get the renewable energy drive up. And the solar panel idea that the government had was doomed to fail. And it's failing because Light Power is not participating as it relates to the exchange of electricity through the grid. So again, the project is doomed from that aspect, right? Renewable energy is doomed from this aspect. Remember, you're not paying for the land. This is the land that the government is supposed to own. So you were supposed to be giving it for free, right? When we looked at the locations of the housing, we had Vesper Gardens and Lancaster St. James, 160 houses. That project was abandoned, overflowing in grass. Pools North, this is the project that we went and we did the video by. They claimed they had 201 houses to be built. However, that was a lie. We produced the pictures as well, and we showed that not even 30 not even houses, partial structures are at pool, no electricity, no water, no roads, just abandoned structures that are cracking and rotting. Much similar to
18 of them. We physically counted 18 partially done structures.
Yes, right. So by extension alone, the ministers lied to this country. Dwight Sunderland gave misinformation. Charles Griffith, the MP for St. John, he did the same, and it's worse because he's the MP and he's giving the people the impression that he's building houses in St. John. And when we investigated, it was a lie. Right? Colleton and St. John, they said 85 houses are supposed to be there as we speak. When we went up to Colleton and St. John, not one house, not even a landmark is probably in the at Colleton and St. John. None. Right? But if you go by the records, 85 houses are supposed to be there. Right? Colleton at St. Lucie, non-existent. The same exact thing. None of the houses they claim that are supposed to be there are there. However, taxpayers' money is being spent. Remember, this money was being spent under the emergency orders, the state of emergencies, through the office of Prime Minister. So this money was just flowing out straight to the developer, right? Because remember, all of these prefabricated slabs were coming from the same company that we spoke about earlier, right? But you have the evidence there. You just need to go to Lancaster, go to Poole, go to Colleton, and you will see exactly what we mean. Right? We had 4 ministers of housing, right? You can see it clearly here?
Yes.
4 ministers of housing since the government came in, right? We had George Payne. He was the first minister of housing. He was fired as a minister. And he cried out and said that he should have been given the courtesy, at least a call before he was fired as a senior member of parliament and the way how he was treated.
Can I ask a question, Kemar? Do we know why he was fired?
Well, he's one of the persons that opposed Mia Motley, even ousted Mia Motley as leader of opposition previously. And we always knew a fraction existed between him and her. So I guess she took the easiest or the earliest opportunity to fire him and get rid of him out of the cabinet and bring in Rommel, I can't remember his last name, Rommel Springer as the new MP for St. Andrew. Right. Charles Griffith, this is the MP for St. John. He was the minister in the Ministry of Housing and Lands. Right? This is happening right in his constituency in St. John. So the people in St. John were tricked, both at Colleton, at Poole, and at Welch in St. John, where people can't get access to title deeds because this same minister of housing went up to Welch in St. John and gave the residents there the feeling that an offer letter was equated to ownership of property, or indeed they believed that an offer letter was a title deed. So you have people living at Welch, Bath in St. John, believing that they own land because they have an offer letter. And since that time, Marcia, they are running the people around in the carousel, telling them that the conveyances are not ready, And that's the principal reason why many people living at Welch and St. John cannot get running water to their house because they don't have title deeds. And they're forced to pay $1,000 up front to the Barbados Water Authority to be able to get title deeds. When this guy, who was the Minister of Housing, just simply had to get the conveyances drawn up and get the people the title deeds to the land. Right? So, moving past him, then we had Duguay, Mr. William Duguay. He was reshuffled as the minister in the ministry at one point. He was the person who actually tried to defend the issuing of the tenders during the whole project. But evidence revealed that the projects were awarded without tender in many instances, although he said different. Okay. Then we have Minister Dwight Sunderland, who openly admitted in Parliament that yes, they went ahead and built without title deeds and they will have the problem rectified and it's a small issue. And it can be a small issue, Marcia, because when we dug deeper, the information revealed that the government knew that they did not have the title deeds and still went ahead with the project. Right? And that is wrong. But again, they were about the money because they issued those orders to go ahead and build because they were probably trying to guarantee revenue for an entrepreneur. Make sure that somebody had a handsome payday, right? Because if it is that the government is supposed to own the lands, the Clico lands, right, and own the lands at Hope, why is it so hard for people to get access to the titles? You could have just done a compulsory acquisition like what they did with Miss Ram, right? And if the government owns it, much better. But they didn't. So there are many options available for the government to rectify these problems, but they're not doing it. But we got to understand why they're not doing it, right? The next level after the ministers was the chairman of the whole project, right? The chairman of the whole project. The first guy on our left, he was the first chairman of the whole project. This is Mr. Tony Hoyes, right? He was the first chairman. What's also interesting about him is that before he came to Hope, he was the chairman of Clico Resolution Life before it closed down.
No, but I don't know where you get these pictures from, but honestly, I don't know the gentleman, and I don't, but somebody like, I mean, just look at these people. They look questionable.
Right?
But Kemar, there's one thing that you didn't add. You see, he was chairman of Resolution Life and click on it, but he was also the fiancé of Cynthia Bradshaw. What is he doing getting government business like that? He should not be in it. It seems like insider trading.
But
Another let him my tail.
thanks, Casper. Go ahead, Kemar.
Yeah. Right. So he was the chairman, the first chairman of the Hope Project, and he left CLICO as the chairman and went over to the Hope Project. Right. So he left CLICO Resolution Life, overseeing all the CLICO assets. Remember, he was the chairman, not an employee, not the maid, not the messenger. He was the chairman, which means that his board had to handle the decision about those lands, right? He left there and he went straight on to the Hope Project. And the Hope Project was intended to build on those same lands. So that means that he knew and did not speak, or he did speak and the government ignored him, right? He then left or resigned or was fired, we don't know. And around July 2023, this guy, William Lane, was appointed as the chairman of Hope. Right? This guy, county date July 2023. Right? By this time this year, the guy on our right, calling Shafi, he came out when we did the video at Pool and made a statement, Marcia. If you remember his statement.
Yes, I remember.
What's also interesting about this guy on the right, who's the current chairman of Hope, is that he was also the former chief operations officer at Four Seasons, the field Four Seasons. Right? Avinash Prasad was the chairman at Four Seasons. Right? And I need you to remember that name, Avinash Prasad, because he plays a very important role in this. Right? So July 2023, count the months to me again, Marcia. June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. 7 months he lasted as a chairman at Hope before he resigned, was fired, or we don't know, but he's not there. And this new chairman was up. I never heard about this chairman in my entire life. I didn't see any public announcement that Hope had a new chairman. We learned about him because of the statement that he made, which tossed the government under the bus.
So Kemar, this is I just want to ask a question. Four Seasons, which we covered, and you also cover in your book Alternate Views. It wasn't something that was successful. So why is now that we're now the same chair, the CEO of that of Four Seasons will be the current chairman now? It's interesting. Just something I noticed.
Yes. Also,
there's something that you gotta tell them, Kemar, because this is a regional nastiness now, because tell the way he was before he came to Barbados now as chairman of Hope, and then you will see the connections. I don't want to steal your thunder, so tell them.
But he was working in Dominica with Roosevelt Scarrett, and he left a job. He resigned from a job in Dominica from the Scarrett cabinet. And I have it here. It says here that the chief executive officer of the Climate Resilience Execution Agency for Dominica, CREED, Dr. Barbudul, and Chief Operations Officer Colin Shafi have both resigned from the organization. And Dominica News Online can confirm that Shafi already left, and his resignation took effect at the end of April, and that Barbuduli has given her resignation to the cabinet secretary to take effect at month end. Right? And this article was published Sunday, May the 24th, 2020. Right? So just in 2020, he was working for Scarrett in Dominica. Right? So Hope, Scarrett, Four Seasons. You see the connection?
Say it again. Say it again.
Hope, Dominica was carried 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Prasad was the chairman at 4 seasons. Remember the Prime Minister and Prasad and the connections they have with Ross University. Because remember, there's Toll Ross from Dominica. Right? And they put the students at Ross to live up at the lands that they did for them at Covely with the same developer and paying overcharge rents. Don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and moving past this one here, because I hope you got that one very well. Okay. Oh Lord. Right. So I just wanted to show you here evidence, visual evidence that this guy was indeed the chairman. Because look, they're all standing here at resolution line. Right. And what's interesting about this is that Parliament was held in the Clico building at Worthing, at the corporate Worthing Center, Worthing Corporate Center. So Hope Project is headquartered in the Worthing Corporate Center. Resolution Life was headquartered in the Worthing Corporate Center. And Parliament, Marcia, was headquartered in the Worthing Corporate Center when they shut down Bristol. So all 3 of offices were in there. So you just had to walk across the room and knock on somebody's door and ask, well, you did the transfer title deeds with the land at Clico. So it's no, but they didn't do that. Right? So how could you be in the same building and allow something as big as this that you don't have title deeds to slip you? I didn't believe that it slipped. Right?
Wow, somebody here saying that they designed the logo and built the website for that whole project. Very interesting. This person is saying Latoya Fleming, and I think it might be the same Latoya. I've been trying to find somebody. Give me a moment, Kemar. Latoya, if you're the person who WhatsApp me, I didn't save your number, and I'm kindly asking you to respond to me. You did something for me, a piece of artwork, and I need to be able to speak to you about it. But I can't find, I don't know how to find you. If that's you and you're listening, please message me. You did a video thing for the show. Okay? Sorry about that. Go ahead, Kemar.
Yes. So what we have here now, Marcia, is George Payne. While he was speaking on the floor of Parliament, Payne, well praising the ministry's technocrats, wanted to know about the planned restructuring of the National Housing Corporation and the public-private sector project known as HOPE, and questioned the transparency on awarding the construction contracts. Right? This is George Payne right here on the floor of Parliament. Right? Opposition. So
he as a minister, right? He was questioning the government.
Yes. Right on the floor of Parliament, not outside. He was in Parliament when he was asking the permanent secretary about these questions, because that's when Duguid was the minister and he was in the Wells. So George Payne, being a backbencher, was asking these questions. He needed to know more about the restructuring of national housing onto this new entity called HOPE, and he wanted the transparency about those construction contracts. And you can see why he wanted transparency, Marcel. Right? Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Ali also joined Payne in questioning some of the NHC contracts, included arrangements with prefabricated concrete maker Preconco. Right? After Lee asked that question, what is happening with Preconco and these arrangements? Right? And as I said before, Mr. Duguid came on and said that the award of those contracts, the $250 million, was transparent. However, callers on brass stats raised the issue of Preconco being awarded contracts without tender because it was allegedly happening. Right? Okay. Back to the chairman at HOPE. Right. Let's read his statement here quickly, Marcia. This was taken from the Nation News, by the way. It says
so
that
this is the current chairman.
Yes. He's saying that developers of the HOPE project at Pool may have put the cart before the horse. A construction on the low-income houses and lands which formerly fell under Clico Farms, but the title deeds have not been transferred, leading to a halt in the project. This information was reviewed in a statement from Chairman of Hope, Colin Chafee. However, and he said it is, however, a fact that formal passage of the legal title of pool lands to the government of Barbados, a process arisen of the Clico collapse, is still unexpectedly incomplete after the transfer was initiated. Right? This is chairman. This is after we had two other chairmen who did not reveal this information. Right? But because it was raised in the public domain, the minister Dwight Sutherland came out, Marcia, if you can remember, and said he was going to respond the next day.
Yes.
He never responded. Right? He only responded this week when he came out and said that yes, they went ahead and built on it. But that was long after the fact. And why didn't he say outside the park? Why did he have to go in Parliament when we wanted answers? He never gave us answers. This guy right here is who told the truth on the government. So he's really the whistleblower on this whole thing.
Wow.
Right? He sold them out. He talked them out. Because if he didn't say what he said, I wouldn't have known what was happening, that the government had title deeds. You wouldn't have known. Barbados.
No, but you know, Kemar, I sat and I was waiting. I don't know if Mr. Frank was waiting to hear what Dwight Sutherland, and I was counting the days. I looked in the newspaper, I saw nothing until he came on. So I'm wondering if Dwight said, I'm not taking the fall for this one. You know, and they sent him out, you know. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. But it's not really Dwight's fault from what you can see. He would have just been a convenient scapegoat.
Correct. And yeah, he probably said, no, let the chairman go out and say that. This is ridiculous.
So this guy, the whistleblower, came out and said what the government, he tossed them all under the bus. Because I can assure you, if he was anybody else, he would have been fired. Right? He would have been fired. But they will work out that one. Our friendly neighborhood professor, ambassador, Mr. Prasad, right? Clico / Resolution Life was put in receivership to wind down, right? The last Democratic Labour Party government, when Clico collapsed, established a solution to fix what was happening with the policies, whatever. And they created two companies. One called Enlico, which holds the real estate assets of Clico, like the same corporate building at Worthing, lands at St. John, or whatever real estate assets they had, New Life Investments, Enlico. Then there was Resolution Life, which holds the insurance portfolio, which was then later sold off to Sagicor. Right? So all of the insurance business that Clico had, Sagicor now owns, but the real estate assets is what we are concerned about that were owned by Enlico, right? The Central Bank of Barbados in June of 2018 issued a bond under this company. Well, not the central bank, sorry. I would say a bond was issued, and it was featured on the central bank's website. This was taken directly from the central bank's website. That a bond was issued by Enlico to Clico for the transfer of its real estate assets to Enlico. So Clico would have had the bonds showing ownership over the assets of Enlico, right? And then when the assets of Clico were transferred over to Resolution Life, then essentially Resolution Life owned Enlico and therefore all of the real estate assets, right? Resolution Life, yes, Resolution Life was then handed over via a bill that Ryan Strong brought to the Parliament of this country to be wound up under Avinash Prasad, who was the chairman of the Financial Services Commission from 2018 to 2021. right? And he was also the chairman of the failed Four Seasons project, along with Colin Shafee, who was the COO and now the chairman of Hope. Right? So we need to know what Mr. Prasad did as it relates to the assets, the real estate assets, as a board decision about those real estate assets of Clico, which would tell us who really and truly owns those lands.
Because he was the receiver. Because it was in receivership, so he should know.
Yes, he should know. Somebody should know. He should know because the FSC and under his portfolio specifically, he spoke to non-banking financial assets, which is merely the insurance sector. Non-banking insurance, his responsibility, right? Brian Strong again came back and updated the public in 2022 now, right? This is probably after he left and said that the FSC is still to complete the work of winding up Red's life after 3 years since the process began, and made the announcement while in Parliament while debating the Financial Services Commission Amendment Bill, along with the validation and some they passed a whole slew of amendments to the Financial Services Commission. Marcia, they can't even fit on the screen, 2 screens. There were so many amendments that they snuck in under the FSC, which restaurant claimed to give the FSC greater certainty to the operations of it. Right? This was in July. So you hear him complaining that nothing has been done with the process. Right? I would assume that inclusive in this process was the Clico lands, which means there was active, ongoing conversation all at this time. And these projects started before July 2022. Hey. So that is mainly what I had in terms of the slides. So I could start sharing this now, but I just wanted to show you visually where I went with the whole project in itself.
This is powerful. To see it, and that's why I always say it's good to have the visual. Mr. Let me hear from Mr. Franklin. I know Miss McClean is waiting there to come on as well. This is disturbing. I don't know. This is disturbing, Mr. Franklin.
That is the type of behavior you would get in one of these African countries with people like Mobutu Sese Seko, those fellows who carry more money than from the treasury than was left back. That's the type of behavior that you are fostering. Barbados now sounds like a banana republic, where the prime minister and her cabinet seem not to follow any particular rules. They do what they like, and God forbid. I now have a copy of the estimates, and I can go let you have them, Kemar, because you might do more good building than me. But this needs a commission of inquiry, and they're talking about not one for just to investigate, but one that will recommend charges to the director of public prosecutions, because somebody should go to jail for this. This if this is not corruption, it is very close to it. It is a very close first cousin or uncle. It is absolutely mind-boggling to think that. Somebody tell me, please stop me selling bananas. That's my favorite fruit. You know, I Glenn, honestly, I said somebody was a jackass, and he said, if a jackass wouldn't be offended, they would say that he's a jackass, so that's a similar thing. These people they just don't care, and you can imagine you have people going out there, getting people to and post yard fouls and to condemn Ralph and all kinds of stuff, rather than deal with the corruption within the government. That is why they cannot. And I told them so when the act was being debated in Parliament, the first time around, the Integrity of Public Life Bill. I said, listen to me. This act will not be brought into force. If they would show, if you could go back and see the YouTube thing, I said it will not be brought into force because too many people out there are gonna get rich first. And my prediction, almost like a prophecy,
Yeah.
is coming true. They would not bring it in force because these things, they would have to account for what's going on here, because a lot of these people are covered under the provisions of the Integrity and Public Life Bill. It doesn't only cover civil servants and politicians. It covers also the men of the chief executive officers and chairmen of these statutory boards and government companies, like even Southern Meats. And they laugh when they see Southern Meats included, because they say, what can happen to the carcass of a cow? You know, but they wanted you to, because if a butcher takes a cow to the market, he knows he can't have a cow. And if you don't get back, you know, so it's going to be very difficult to do this kind of corruption up there. But no, they went down to the nitty gritty. But they can't bring it in force because they have too many friends out there who flying by night.
Okay. Caswell, talk about locker. I want you to watch a video. I really want you to watch this video and listen to it carefully to the words of the Prime Minister. I you know, it's entitled "Don't Touch Clico Lands," right? That is what is it. That's what title of it is. And I want to play so that you and the whole public could hear what was being said on a platform in St. John by the Prime Minister as it relates to these Clico lands. Seeing it?
Not yet.
You hearing it?
No,
Where are you? Okay, hold a minute. Let me try to put it up for you. You can restart.
You getting it?
Hold a second. It's not here as yet. While you're doing that, Kemar, I'm going to ask everybody to share. This is very important. This is troubling. Okay, it's up now. Starting from the beginning, Kemar, and I'm going to add it to the studio now. Stop and start it at the beginning.
Yeah.
We have from energy to passion to skills to people skills to technical skills to legal skills to financial skills to social skills to economic skills. A team that represents what Barbados needs at this time. And it is this team that is going to allow us to meet the needs of the people of St. John. Be it from education to opportunity to fishing to access to land to dealing with the many thousands of acres that have been abandoned with the Clico lands, that we need answers on as to who and what is being done with it. And I pray that it will not be sold under the shadow of a parliament that is closed down between now and election day. Because if it is, mark my word, action will be taken to recover the assets of the people of Barbados. Because the people of Barbados cannot guarantee bonds and not get the assets under which those bonds are related.
Yes, action will be taken.
You know, it says that it is don't mind nigger mind the actions. I always telling people so. And that big nigger there, it just say one thing and do the next.
And we're speaking proverbially because people are going to say you call the Prime Minister nigger. But
Man, people call me nigger man, all kind of thing. Nigger is only bothered by people in the United States, you know. That's a term. But I got a friend called nigger. and he answers for it. You know what I mean? I don't let American foolishness bother me. When I was a little boy, the people said nigga man, you know. The only your people would say the little pickney. We would say little nigga man there, and they did a big thing. So if they want, go and watch American TV, and because somebody calls somebody a nigga, they're going, but that wasn't our culture. That ain't got nothing to do with me. They did a big thing. So
But who's somebody? But this Miss McClean. Oh my lordy! When shows like this have me up at night. To be honest with you, because the level, the layers of the layers, what seems to be, it just seems in Jamaica we say puff. What you say in Barbados? Like corruption, like underneath as you peel and you lift up. And as somebody trained as an accountant, this thing it's just mind-boggling. The layers of it, Miss McClean, that it appears. This is what I would say. The appearance of this is not good.
It is not good. It is not good, and I will say this, Kemar, you need to transcribe that presentation. And I will take you back a step, and there's something I want to read so that a reference you must hold on to. No, this is very, very serious. That kind of analysis does not get done in real time. I'm getting an echo. I'm hearing myself. Somebody may need to, okay. No, because the name Prasad keeps reoccurring. Go back to 2005, 4, whenever it was, that the area in which I grew up, I will never forget the day I saw it down at Paradise when that place was denuded, because I grew up, I was literally born on Black Rock Road, just several hundred yards up the road from there. And he was involved then. He was able to convince Prime Minister Stuart that he was able to find funding for this failed project and whatever. Go and look at the parties to that whole thing. It's like a circle. It's coming around in a circle. Kemar, I want you to make note of a reference, because when we first, on the 4th of February, when we touched on this, I remember you had brought it. And Marcia, I went and looked. There's an article in a publication I found online called Business View Caribbean, November the 2nd, 2022. The title of the article was Hope Inc., a Barbados Success Story. And you mentioned, I'm telling you this because you mentioned that the project, they told people that the land was free. Now, I missed some of what you said because I got up and then I had to close down my Facebook to come on and so on. But according to Tony Hoyers, and I quote from the article because I think he was probably so happy about what they were going to be making from the project that and you mentioned the falsehoods that people went into these projects, whether it was from the ministers or whatever. And I quote, according to Tony Hoyers, quote, the Prime Minister and her economic team initially created the plan to reduce the cost of housing for teachers, police, and nurses earning less than Barbados $4,000. And I said he chaired the hope. Then he goes on how it works. The quote, the killer application of the project is the free land provided to applicants, which Hoyer said is not as crazy as it sounds. Quote, Hope Inc. gives away the land in exchange for 20 years of using your rooftop to generate solar energy. This is the critical point, quick Kemar. We sat down and did the calculations and realized that the revenues from energy generated from these rooftops over 20 years would more than cover the cost of the land we are giving away. They ain't giving away no land. They are selling you the land and giving you some photovoltaic panels that are almost fully depreciated, that you cannot guarantee that they will have a life for 20 or even 25 years. So that was another part of that scam. So make a note of that, Kemar, because you have done extensive research and that has to be documented. I mean, you can transcribe it from your presentation tonight, but it is really, Marcia, one of those things that stinks to high heaven. And that is how I would describe it.
And I heard, Mr. Franklin, I see you want to say something there that Reverend Athley, because sometimes people say he didn't do anything, but I like to, when they do something good, I'm going to say it. that he was one of those who raised this, along with George Payne, who raised this in Parliament and questioned it. And we must commend Reverend Atherley, and thank you, Kemar, for being honest in saying that. Mr. Franklin, you had a question or a point to make?
Not really. I was just mumbling when Maxine said it stinks to high heaven. They say you may it stink to hell. You know?
Well, that's true. See, heaven is supposed to be nice, and so it's reaching all up there, so you can imagine what's happening in hell.
Yeah,
no, but this is, I mean, and it is what I would call a horrible spider's web that has been spun. Because when you think of all the elements of that, and if you think how intricate a spider's web is, this is what it is. But then you have a set of common players in there. It is ridiculous. So in essence, the words of the Prime Minister will come back to haunt her, because she was talking about herself and not the past administration. I have to put that in there, because you're talking about things, and obviously you were trying to create an impression that there was something wrong. There was nothing wrong. There's something wrong now.
Yes, something is wrong. And I remember the first time, Miss McClean, that you came on my show years ago, and you did an entire presentation about Four Seasons. You remember that?
I still have the notes.
Yeah,
I have the numbers, everything.
I think we need to revisit that.
And layer it on top of what Kemar did. That's why I say you go back and start the circle again.
Yes, because it's a whole thing. Kemar has some chapters in his book on Four Seasons, but Miss McClean also has a presentation. But Caswell, Miss McClean is going to be talking about how do we read the estimates, and how do we begin to interpret them, and how do they come up with the estimates. And one of the reasons we want to do this tonight, Kemar, is so that the average Barbadian will be able to understand. Because, we hear about these estimates, and people just say, oh, they're reading the estimates, But do they understand the intricacy of it and understand what goes into it? So that in this season, that we're going to hear all about estimates, that when we come on here, the whole 1,000 and odd of us that's on here tonight, we can have an educated discussion. We can be informed, and we know what we are talking about. So let's Miss McClean share for a couple minutes, and then we go into a discussion. Miss McClean, I think you need about 10-15 minutes to do that. And
well, you will signal. I'll see if I can do that. Basically, what I wanted to do, Marcy, is to kind of, as I said, demystify these things, because they make it sound like some complicated process. But really and truly, what we're looking at on an annual basis is trying to understand what it is they're doing, why the process happens, and how it happens. Basically, the estimates really relate to the expenditures and revenues of government. So they have to document them ministry by ministry. They go through a process of determining what kind of activities they're going to undertake, what programs, what projects. Those things are costed. If they are revenue generating agency or ministry, then they would look to project the revenues that they are likely to generate as well. And they prepare these figures, and the ministers go to meetings with the Minister of Finance, who would then look to say, okay, because the Ministry of Finance has some sense of the resources that they have that they can utilize, or they want to utilize, or they will try to find a way to generate to finance these activities, whether it's wages, capital expenditures, investment, for example, in the hospital, in new equipment, money to be made available to the Board of Tourism, the BTMI, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., to promote Barbados, whether it's money for agriculture, education, and so on. Now, so a department or ministry will come up with their expenditures. In other words, this is what they think. This is what they say they want. Mm-hmm. But the Minister of Finance then has to juggle what they have and what they anticipate they will be able to make available, and look and to make sure that every agency gets some amount of money. And so there's a discussion exercise where the ministry will try to defend its case, and the Ministry of Finance and the minister would say, well, okay, we're going to have to cut this here, there, whatever. Now, once that process is complete, they actually put together the information. And this is what Caswell is going to give you, Marcia, a document that looks like this. So he has this is from 2021, 22. Okay. He has the current one. That's what you have, Caswell.
Yeah,
so it's a document of, oh gosh, lots and lots of pages. Because that captures everything.
And where do you get a copy of that? If somebody wants, like a regular person?
This used to be available a hard copy. Nowadays it is online, but there's no way that I can easily read a document of this size online, but it is available. The government printer used to have them available. Okay.
Oh, but the print read doesn't have any paper. So they don't.
So you're gonna have to do it online.
The print read round the paper. This is a couple of years
but you say it's a long time ago.
Yes,
so
and they don't get
Parliament. So you go to the parliamentary.com website?
I would have to investigate because
Caswell or Kemar, can you investigate that for us? Which website?
It should be there.
Probably maybe on Government Information Service as well. And if not, contact them and ask them where you can get a copy. So this actually then has to be taken. The contents of this is actually put in reference to that is made. And I sent you, Marcia, I don't know if you saw it, the piece of legislation, what you call the appropriations bill. I don't know if you saw it. It's by email.
Oh, it's by email. Okay, so we're going to check that, and you want that.
Okay, and I'll read it. So what happens? All of that is captured in this case. I have this year's, and this I was able to download from Parliament's website when you look at bills and resolutions. And it says the bill, which is the appropriations bill for 2024, the objects and reasons read like this. This bill will provide for the grant of a sum of money out of the consolidated fund and the appropriation of the same for the service of Barbados for the year ending 31st March 2025. Well, the government's financial year runs from April 1st to March 31st of the next year. So, for example, 31st of March would end the financial year 2023-24, and April 1st this year would begin the next financial year, April 1st, 2024 to March 2023. Now, it also says to you, it says arrangement of sections, and the short title, as it says, a bill, an act to grant a sum of money out of the consolidated fund, as I read before. Now, the allocation, the funds for this year, the grant is supposed to be $2,251,364. So that's 2,091,251,364, or as I said, $2,091,251,364. The way these things are organized, you would see, for example, they will show you the actual expenditure for.
Yeah, we're trying to get it up on the screen because it would be lovely to see it.
Yeah, but I will go back to that when you're ready.
Yeah, hoping that Dave can do that in our email, because you sent it to us via email. So let's hope he can find it and we can get
no problem. But what I'm saying is this information here is then broken down in this book. For example, you would see for the Cabinet Office. I just opened the book and it opened to the Cabinet Office. And this was 2021-22. But there are several columns in here. It shows you the actual expenditure for the...
Ms. McClean, let me interrupt you one more time. I think it's coming in now. Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
What page do you want?
But that's fine. That can stay. But he's gone to page 4. You can probably go back to page, go back to the previous page, go back to the beginning so people can see exactly what I was saying. So you go back, okay, you have to scroll up a little bit. Something is covered by the title of the session, if you can, right, okay. So what that says is really, it gives you, the important thing there is item 2. So for this year, what government is seeking to do is to make available to the various agencies, this is item 2, the total sum of money would be $2,091,251,364. Okay. So this money would be allocated to all the ministries and agencies, etc., receiving money from government from the consolidated fund. If you go then to the next page, I think you can go to page 4, which helps explain what this is. And as it said, the act, once it is passed, will be cited the Appropriation Act 2024. This is an annual exercise. And what happens, this bill has to be passed and into law and made an act by the 31st of March, because at the end of March, if the monies for the new financial year, and if those monies are not approved, what will happen is that no expenditures can be made. So government has to go through this process and make those funds available. So it says here, for that elaboration, the Accountant General may, on the warrant of the minister or person authorized by the minister in writing, issue out of the consolidated fund and apply towards making good the supply granted for the service of the year. Old language that they've been using, I guess, for eons. Ending March 31st. So all this is saying is over the next year, the Accountant General, through a process of approval, etc., where the ministries would indicate, that they need to pay salaries, they need to pay for equipment for school meals, they need to pay for equipment for the hospital, they need to buy equipment for whatever, or pay, for various services. And the amount cannot exceed what is there unless government goes back to Parliament. But I would talk about that later. We can probably do that in the description. Now, and you scroll up a little bit and it just explains the sum referred to is going to be appropriated, whatever. And the date of which the grant is effective. So in other words, this money cannot be spent before, once approved, it cannot be spent before April the 1st. Now, there's actually, so that is what happens, and that's why the House speaks to the process of debate in Parliament. An appropriation bill is called a money bill, and this would be debated in the House. It goes to the Senate, but the Senate does not, they can debate through a process the bill, but they cannot make alterations to it. So for example, with another piece of, because the Senate can't, don't deal with money bills in that way, because I guess the thinking is that the Senate is appointed, the members of Parliament in the House are elected by the people to deal with these things, and so there's that division. So what you would have, for example, is a full debate. The Parliament goes into committee and so on so they can go into committee and what do they call it? Something of supply, they call it when it comes to money bill. What do you call it, Caswell?
Yeah, a committee of supply.
Committee of supply. So they can go, for example, the parliamentarians can traditionally would go and they can start delving into that and asking questions about, because when you look at the actual big document I show you, would see that broken down into many categories, broken down across ministries. And in fact, Marcia, before I go any further, I just want to share something. If you can go to Schedule 2 on page 5. I'm just gonna show a couple numbers here so people can see some of what you're talking about. Yeah, okay. Scroll up a little bit. Okay, fine. Here you have a number of, and it shows you how much money is allocated for this financial year, for the running of the office of president. Yeah. And I can tell you that some people argue that given what happens there, well, you can look, the president's office gets less than $2 million a year to run the operations. And of course, their staff, there are all kinds of things. The Ministry of the Public Service, the figure there is an allocation of $6,838,387. Now, last year, for example, and I took down some numbers because just so you can compare. Last year, the allocation 2023-24 for the Ministry of Public service was $5,431,441. If you come down to Parliament and Prime Minister's office, let's look at that one. The Prime Minister's office, the allocation this year is $188,615,510. Last year, the allocation was $181,200,550. So there's an increase in there, but of course we know that a whole set of things have gone on the Prime Minister office recently, so they would have to budget for those things. There's an interesting one here. Go scroll down to 27, which is tourism. If you come further down, you have ombudsman. You come down Treasury. Scroll up so you can see the numbers below, because there are several categories below, Marcia.
So we're at.
I want you to go down. You see, Dave
is in charge of it, and I think.
I see.
We're having some animal problem here.
So okay, but let me explain. We can look at it later on. I was gonna show you tourism, because only in I think one case that I see that there was a decrease. For example, you had in the Ministry of Tourism this year is going to get $21,537,564. Last year, though, last financial year, the figure was $26,513,151. So that was a decrease, an interesting decrease as to why. I guess you would see whatever the explanations are. Maybe. Yeah, go ahead, Caswell.
No, I can't say it's tourism, international transport. Yeah. Because you know what will happen? The airport going to come out of there.
Okay.
Because they're giving away the airport.
Oh. So the expenses will be covered by elsewhere or by somebody else.
I don't know how they're going to do it, because the people who actually, for instance, the people who actually maintain the airport, the government going to retain them. So the company is going to just be making money. The company that come to cover the airport.
So the government continue to pay
They're going to continue to pay the guys who do the electronics, the tower and all kind of stuff. They will still be paid by government.
Okay.
But there's some things that they might need under international transport that they might not have.
Okay.
That could account for the shortfall. But I gotta look and see, because I got the estimates. I can look and see.
But that was one that stood out for me, because where it was I would say a significant reduction, where you saw on the other side increases in other heads, other ministries or departments. So that is the kind of numbers you're looking at, and the process, as I was saying, in Parliament you would have had debates and what would happen. Because you can't cover every single ministry or agency in detail. Typically, the government of the day would choose particular areas that they want to debate. So for the 1 year, they may debate housing, agriculture, tourism. They may debate health, education, some other department. Welfare, whatever the case may be. But there was a change since 2018, and Caswell, you can tell me if this used to happen before. Typically, what would happen in the period of the debate or the estimates, the ministers, the members of Parliament would have available to them the staff from the ministry who would probably assist them in responding to any questions, etc. But we have had a change in system where, to use the language that they use, public officers are now brought into the well of Parliament, where they are actually interviewed, quizzed, whatever you want to call it, interrogated,
embarrassed.
Okay. And Caswell, it'd be interesting from your perspective as a unionist and a former public officer, what is your take on that approach?
My take is exactly the take that Ralph Torren has. I've been saying it for the longest time, and Ralph got up in the House and complained about it recently. Public officers are not elected by the people of Barbados to answer in Parliament. That is what you have the ministers doing. The ministers, they form a cabinet, and the cabinet is accountable to Parliament. No public officer is accountable to Parliament. The problem here is that the Prime Minister has surrounded herself with a lot of, I'm going to be nice, I'm going to call them drones, who don't know what to do. So they have to find a method to get the public officers who can answer the questions, rather than the minister, because even if you tell them what to say, they ain't gonna know. They say, as you whisper in the ears, they come back, they can forget. So that is not our system, because public officers, first of all, Ralph made the point, and a lot of them made the point when it first happened. There's some departments that refuse to go. Especially, I think corporate affairs never went.
Okay.
Because the lawyers they said, no, that's not our job, we ain't going in there. And so they refuse to go. But a lot of them like to know that a lot of these public officers, you know, like they see themselves on TV and a nice string of pearls, you know, and go home and tell you, but you see me on TV? So that's what it's all about. It's ego and foolishness. They have no right being there. If they go in there and call my name and they say something that I don't let, sue them, because they do not have parliamentary privilege. If you go in Parliament and you cast me which way, and the Speaker allows you to do it, but you get away with it, because you have privilege in Parliament. Anything you say inside there, you cannot be, nobody can put nothing in your tail. But a public officer who goes in there, they do not have that parliamentary privilege. They're not parliamentarians. So, and the thing, it come up on TV, and it come up, and they can sue you. Come up on YouTube. So they are putting themselves in jeopardy because the politicians are not capable or competent to do the job that the people elect them to do. Now, and it is so stupid. These estimates are prepared by the civil servants, approved by the cabinet. The cabinet approved these things. So then you will see a cabinet minister getting in the house and questioning the estimates that they approve.
Yeah.
It is nonsense. Well, we didn't have so it was just a show. Theater. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But the ministers like it so because they can put a civil servant in the firing line. And some of the civil servants are so afraid. Others just like the idea of being on TV, you know, and they go. But it is not their job. They're not elected to account to the people for the money that the government is spending. No, as a matter of fact, if a public officer does something in his ministry that is so horrendous that causes ministries or problems, the minister is supposed to offer his resignation, not the public officer. Is disciplined the public officer, but the minister is supposed to resign. We have taken it now to a different. We are no longer operating under the Westminster system of government that we inherited from England. We are operating under the motley system of government that she inherited with her nightmares. Because it is not done that way, but nobody can tell her anything. Well, you can tell, but she ain't gonna listen. And Ralph made the point. Just recently, I read the details in the article in the newspaper where he was making these exact points. And I said, well, look, you know, at least somebody knows how it's supposed to go. But the ministers, they're off the hook. What they used to do, however, is to call ahead and talk all the time and let the estimates only deal with two things, because they couldn't they couldn't expose their people to the scrutiny of the opposition. One thing you're going to say about David Thompson, you know, David Thompson, when he was prime minister, he told them, look, you call the heads, we will debate. Just let me know. He said, give them 2 days or something. So you tell the opposition, you tell me what you want to discuss, and we will make ourselves available to you to take questioning from you. That was the decent thing to do. That was done in England, you know, and they didn't do that. They didn't accept what was a golden opportunity, because either they were not equipped or they were angry or something. I don't know, but David Thompson was a better Democrat than all of them. He said, well, look, we ain't going to tell you what we want to discuss. You tell me what you want to discuss, and we can discuss it with you. Just give me a couple of days notice so that we will be able to prepare. for the ministries or departments that you want to discuss. They won't do it. No, they're coming up with this mockery.
But the question I'm trying, I have to go back. I must say, Marcy, that I was unable to get exactly how it works, but I know that they have these officers there, and they're short blocks of time, maybe 15 minutes or something, that they can raise questions and then they go on. My concern with that, though, now is that when it was just a token thing, because as Caswell correctly said, if I sit in cabinet, because remember in fact, one of the steps that I omitted, that even before in the sense I didn't explain it, but to be a bill, it has to be signed off in cabinet, and then it goes to Parliament. It is laid in Parliament. This was done. This was done last Friday, I think it was, or last week, someday last week.
The 20th, the 20th of February.
Oh yeah, but we're not Friday. 2 days ago. And then they would now be debated next week. So at the end of the day, you're talking about the executive being the cabinet. Those ministers individually and collectively come up with these figures, because as I said, remember, a ministry comes up with a set of information. These are the things that they want. This is their wish list, so to speak. This is their desired level of funding and whatever. Then it goes to that committee of public officers working with the Minister of Finance. They literally sit in the cabinet office, in the cabinet room, and they go through these numbers and they look and say, okay, I know you want $50 million for this, but realistically, we're going to have to give you 40, or we'll give you 40, and perhaps later on you can come back. Now, so in essence, that process takes place, and once that is finished and these things are compiled, they actually have the information, and I mean, it's not, people look at it. And so I'm going to come to question you about something that I generally would have been questioning you about, or at least the information would have been made available. So in a sense, what we saw was a token thing, but now you have, because remember that approach was introduced post the defeat of the Democratic Labour Party in 2018, at the start of this administration. So, and I recall Bishop Atherley complaining about the limit of time that he had available to him to delve into some issues. So I think what's going to happen is the leader of the opposition would have to be fairly skilled in trying to get certain information out there, and in terms of getting questions to the minister and his technical people, the PS and whoever comes to the sessions. So that's going to be important. But that is the process. Usually, one of the things that used to happen sometimes, and because when I was a girl, I used to rush home, and I was at secondary school, and when I was at university, to listen to these debates and the budget debate. Now, let me just touch on that quickly, the notion of the budget, because some people ask what's the difference. Now, the estimates, as I said, shows you the amount of money to be expended, etc. And then you would have some information on the expected expenditures.
Right on the cover. Right on the cover.
Right on the cover. Okay, yeah, of the book. Okay, let me use the figures for this is 2021, 22, and the estimated current revenue in the financial year 2021, 2022 excuse me, was $2,891,928,135. The estimated total expenditure was $3,398,427,440. So right away you could see that there was, in fact, that's if you 29, if you round that out to 29 and 34, 29, there's about $500 million or something, whatever. You can do the subtraction. I would do the calculation, and show you. So what happens then is, from these estimates, once they have their projections of revenue and the estimated expenditure, there's a shortfall. And the question, therefore, is the government now has to come and tell us how they will meet that shortfall. And that usually is presented. Sometimes they don't have a budget, sometimes, but usually they will have to tell you how they're going to do that. And sometimes the tradition was that you did it in a budget speech. So you would hear about the prime minister coming in. It was a black box.
Black box. Yeah,
remember
the black box.
The way the one for Torbados?
Yeah. He's still in the mental, you know.
Oh, so hold a minute. So I learned, I never knew, because in an estimate and a budget, right, in accounting terms, it's really the same. It means the same thing in terms of meaning. But for your purposes, or say you guys, the government people,
they break it up. They break it up. They break it up.
It's broken up. So you have the estimate of the revenue, the expenditure, and then they bring a budget
to tell you how they're gonna deal with it, how they're gonna deal with the different.
The estimates are technically the budget of Barbados.
Yes.
All right.
Because
this tell you how much you're going to receive,
how much you're
going to spend. Now let me give you a little horror here. No, I don't like to give people bad news this time of the night, because some people might not sleep. But these current estimates, the government is.
You mean this year,
2024-25. These estimates, the current revenue, estimated current revenue will be $3 billion.
Yeah.
724 million. 362,637 dollars. The expenditure, government expenditure, though, is going to be projected at $4 billion.
Wow.
667 million 687,304. That's 4667 687,304. Now the shortfall would be 943,324,667 dollars.
So you would just say about $1 billion.
$1 billion.
9.5, let's say.
Right?
$1 billion. Let's round it up to $1 billion.
All right, so that's going to be $1 billion.
Okay.
That is now what the government will try to get in the budget.
Right. And they have to tell us where they're going to get it from. That's why.
So these are the taxes now that they will raise. They have to raise these taxes to cover the
shortfall.
The shortfall.
That deficit. Yeah.
Yeah. So the budget now will be intended to raise $1 billion this year.
$1 billion. So my question, I have a question, teachers. So question, my accounting thing kicking in.
Accounting, yes.
I thank you all so much. I love to be around you all, honestly. Mr. Murray as well. So let me ask you something. So when there is a debate about the estimates, is it possible for, if we say we have a robust, we have an opposition, but if we had like a real numbers there, is it a case where through the debate about the estimates, they could go back and decrease this difference so that what this 1 billion say could come down, to half a billion?
Unlikely. It's highly unlikely.
It is unlikely. It is theoretically possible, but you will not see it, because you've got to go through so much, because then you would have to be sitting down and saying, well, no, we should cut here and we should put on some here and take up that exercise will not happen.
I'm going to share something with you, though, as a former minister. It is approved, right? So let's say in my day, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs might have been approved for $52 million. Caswell, look in there and tell me how much money the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is getting now. Because I remember one, it was 52 million or whatever. Of course, they've opened new embassies and so on. But then, 9 months into the process, you get a note from the Minister of Finance saying, you have to find a way to cut your budget by 10% or 15%. So in essence, it is approved, but because part of what might happen is remember that you're looking at revenues and expenditures.
Right.
And your revenues may not come up to the projected figures. So there's an ongoing review by the Ministry of Finance. The Accountant General does reports and whatever else. So you then may be told, well, look, revenues are not where they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so you have to cut. So you don't have to go through and look to see how you can find ways to cut. Sometimes you may have to scuttle something that you were planning to do or whatever the case may be.
So that's why the fight is always about that budget. You will always, the budget is the thing to look at, because then it could mean that taxes will be raised, because now you have to raise that revenue, or we're going to have layoffs, as somebody said, but it's something is going to be.
So they have to cut costs somewhere, and you're correct. And this is to me, when I look at that deficit, and I look at I think it was, I have to look for the article, but my understanding was that sometime in the news this week, Professor Robinson spoke about the debt repayment situation that the government is facing, let's say next financial year. Looking at the economic situation right now, I would have to go, the main providers, one of foreign exchange would be tourism, of course. The main provider of corporate taxes in the last let's say the last 25 years or whatever, I would say about 25, 15, 10, 25 years or so, would have been the international business sector. So the question now is, what has been the performance of those two sectors? My worry for tourism, and I will be very frank, having been involved in the cruise industry for nearly 15 years before I went into government, and I look around the Caribbean and I see what's happening St. Vincent is getting sandals. St. Vincent now has an international airport for the last few years, but it is now seeing itself receiving direct flights, international flights, and so on. So Liat has gone. So there's a lot of the Barbados as a transit hub for Liat, people coming from London and flying to St. Vincent or Grenada or St. Lucia and so on. That has now pretty much gone by the wayside. In fact, if I want to go to Grenada, I wanted to go to Grenada last July for family reunion. I didn't bother because getting there was not only expensive, but I remember some of my relatives from different parts of the world had some challenges getting in and getting out, because what we took for granted with Liat is no longer there, and they've not found any proper substitutes yet. So what I'm saying in relation back to the issue of the budget and the concerns, in addition to that big deficit, we have a big debt service on our plates. The Prime Minister has spoken about moratoria for certain debts and so on. But the reality is that she has inherited debt that has been there on the books, some created under us, some created under them, some going back. Because think about it, if you have a debt that's going to take you 20-something years to repay, because she talked about a moratorium of X number of years. So there's always debt to be serviced. What has happened under this administration is that if you look at the numbers, under the previous administration, the bulk of the debt was domestic debt. So in essence, government was paying in Barbados dollars. Right. So apart from having money to pay, it now has to have money in foreign currency to service the increasing foreign debt that we have. So it makes you get to worry. Now, on top of that, there are a lot of layoffs that are going to happen. I mean, we see that the restructuring of the BAMC that was rushed to completion because I guess they had deadline targets to meet for the IMF. BIDC, what they call it, Export Barbados or whatever. I hear the CEO there talking pretty, but I have been monitoring that place because I in another iteration, I used to do some work with small business people who had to interface with that agency 20 years ago or so. And so when I start to look at what I call the revenue generating side now, I am wondering, because remember I talked about the international business sector.
Yeah.
The one of the things that the current administration did very early was to reduce corporate taxes across the board, and so companies were paying significantly lower amounts of taxes. And I mean domestic and foreign companies. I don't want to get too technical. So I suspect, and then the United States passed some legislation about taxes. The number 15% is playing around in my head, but that can
Yeah,
become
Biden had made a
Biden,
statement
yeah.
saying that this should be the standard.
Yes. So
Sounds familiar. Yes. I think
so
that
what
President
may
spoke about that.
happen? What may happen in a budget situation is that corporate taxes may go back up. That is a possibility. So that's one thing. Because obviously when you reduced it to that level, unless you were able to attract a flood of new business, your revenues, to compensate for what was a significant reduction, your tax take would have been reduced significantly. Reality is, I do not know that Barbadians, and somebody indicated there about the middle class. The middle class has almost been annihilated, to be quite honest. I was talking to a former schoolmate of mine who lived in London, in England, for most of her life after we left school. And she was bemoaning the situation in UK. She's saying it is very expensive. And she's saying, that things that you saw happening elsewhere, that you go to the supermarket and persons are and you see it here, they're in the checkout line and they're looking at prices and trying to decide what to purchase and what not to purchase. Now, why is this important for us? Barbados has always been an attractive destination for the British, right? And I always tell people it will always continue. The wealthy will continue to come, although they may complain. They may come because of their properties and so on. But as I tell people, an aircraft is not 100% business or first class. The bulk of the seats are economy. What does that mean? It means that we would also need to have average persons taking a holiday and coming to Barbados. If the plane isn't full, then we have a problem. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So because Barbados is not being considered expensive for all kinds of reasons.
Wow.
It is expensive.
Yeah.
We somehow find a way to survive, but when somebody can go to Mallorca or to Dubai or hop across to somewhere on the west coast of Africa, to Spain, to whatever, so what I'm saying is when I hear about persons complaining about the cost of living in England, what is it saying is that they're going to have less money to travel. And if they travel and they want to get away from the dreary wetness of London or the Midlands or wherever, they will go where there's some sunshine, but it doesn't necessarily mean they can come as far as Barbados. Right. And if they come to the Caribbean, more and more, we're seeing things happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I mean, since we talk in tourism, I have conversations with a former colleague of mine. I'll call his name. He wouldn't mind. And if he minds,
we literally have 2 minutes.
Okay, we'll talk about that another time.
Maxine, to answer your question, the estimates for Ministry of Foreign Affairs this year, 68,491,572.
Okay, so
this is not kind of money there.
Well, but they've opened a couple of new embassies in Kenya, in Ghana,
and staffed them with mad people who go there.
My lips are sealed. They have some. What I can tell you is that they have some good public officers.
The public officers have no problem with them, but these people, they bring people here at this embassies, And one man back off the door at the embassy already.
You serious? Talk to
Yeah.
me later. Marcia, don't have time to talk to me later.
You know, Mr. Thorne, I have his picture up here, and he's going to be on the show on Sunday. On Sunday, we're asking everybody, when you see the flyer, promote it, tell your friends about it, tell your neighbors. This is an opportunity for us to have a conversation with Mr. Thorne. And one of the things that we promised that we're doing, we're collecting questions. And actually, people are sending questions, Mr. Franklin. And we have some of our loyal opposition. They're working now. We have a team, you know, and they're typing up the questions and so on, so that I would have them to ask Mr. Thorne. We want to make sure that we break down that barrier between him and the people. And so this is your show, and this is your time. The 4 of us or 5 of us will not hug the show. We're going to open it up, right, Ms. McClean, so that the people can ask him their questions. And so remember to send the questions to me, 236-7000. Some people say you're not afraid to put your numbers out there. I know that they're in my phone. It don't matter. They're not going to find anything. What
All
you see
you do
is
is you say hello and hello. Do like me. You say hello to my friend who's calling, and hello to the malicious people that listening. I've done that for years.
I don't have no naked pictures in there. I don't have nothing like that. So they can do what you see is what you get. I don't take no money from nobody. So they can do 236-7000, because they already have the number and them all in my phone. But message with the questions that you may have, so that we can get those. We can, have the leader of the opposition to answer those questions. As we talk about the budget, I'm so glad that we talked about the estimates and we touched on the budget a bit, so that we understand. So when we see the leader of the opposition in there fighting over these things, we know, representing us, we know exactly what he's doing. And Ms. McClean and Mr. Franklin, we need to do this again, and then come up, look at that 1 billion, and even before they start, let's begin to look at it and see how they plan to close this up. What do we project is going to happen? And let's do it together as a group. Mr. Kemar, thank you for a great presentation tonight. And I heard you had a fantastic show. I had a meeting and I couldn't get on, but I promise you're going to send me the sections you want me to watch. And I'm thinking, but what are your thoughts about Mr. Thorne coming on the show on Sunday? Kemar.
I look forward to having Mr. Thorne on the show. I'll be headed to speaking at a meeting with Senator Walters, Donald Innes, and myself at Parkinson on Sunday. And after the meeting, we'll be headed home to be on the show, so that we could participate with Mr. Thorne officially on the People's Opposition. The opposition leader has come home.
Listen, we called it out on the show, and we sat down and we said, man, if he crossed the floor, this is what would happen. And it has happened, and we have a leader of the opposition. And let me tell you, I don't care if he's wearing a yellow tie, a blue tie, an orange tie, a red tie, or whatever. Once we have somebody in the opposition, that is what I'm supporting. So stop sending me messages I'm talking about I am supporting a party. Listen, you know what I stand for, Miss McClean. It's about we must have an opposition in Barbados. You hear me?
Marcia,
I don't care the color tie he's wearing.
Tell him that picture was probably when he was a member of the Barbados Party. So what? But men wear all colored ties. I saw it the other day. I agree with you. What are getting into that for? It is what he does, and as you say, how he represents the issues that we put to him.
Yes, Miss McClean, what are your thoughts about him coming here to the loyal opposition? Which we talked about it, and we dreamt about this day. So what are your thoughts?
No, I think it is a good move. If and as you said when you advertise it, he's coming here to share, at least to respond to the questions and concerns of the people who follow this show. And I believe that and I said it then, that if he doesn't know, if he doesn't think he can answer, just be a man enough to say, well, I will have to think about that one. But I think that what it is really is that this is because the way that you're doing it is that you will be putting questions. He doesn't know what he's going to be asked, you know, and I think that it takes a serious person, somebody who is, you know, mature enough to come and face the music, so to speak. But you are representing people. We have been calling for this, you know, in the absence of somebody. We were saying we wanted somebody. We have somebody, and I think, frankly, that in having this conversation, I have to check the format again of how the debate goes in Parliament. But it really will give him a sense of the issues that are of importance to the Barbadian. And so it can only help him as he thinks through, you know, what is going to, because he's only one person in Parliament doing this. But it would really give him a sense of, you know, where perhaps he can place his emphasis in relation to some heads, and you know, when he sees the ones that to be debated, but he also can put questions for other things on the table now and later on, because this is one series of active days of meetings in Parliament, but it continues, and debates will come on other pieces of legislation and so on. So he will have a bank of questions that have been put to him, which can help him.
I really, I'm looking forward to it. You know, Kemar, Calvin McKenzie, I don't know him, but he's a real, you're a comedian, because he's funny. He says, I'm a D. Don't mind she. Listen.
He is a decent daughter of her parents and of Jamaica and adopted by Barbados. Damn.
Yeah, you remember Patrick King was the one who said that. He was the first one who put it out and was so sure, you know, and saying all these different things. But
I was gonna ask a question, but it might hurt him. I was gonna ask if it's true that he get a big job.
He always gets one.
But you know, you can rest assured. I tell you that I voted. If I think it's 4 elections I've been in. I voted in and voted 4 different ways, Mr. Franklin, because I don't play. I don't follow colors. I don't care who you are. I'm going to sit and listen to what you're saying, analyze, and that's what I'm hoping everybody does on this show. So
but if Caswell ever run, you're going to vote for Caswell?
Well, he's not in my constituency, and but
I will run up there, then at least I will get one vote.
Listen, you're gonna have to convince me. I'm gonna have to see what you're gonna do for my community. Well, anyway, go ahead, Mr. Franklin. What are your thoughts about Mr. Thorne coming to the show?
But check your phone first, and then you could think. But I welcome Mr. Thorne to the show. It is very important that the opposition is united. You know, we will support him. We will give him our support, because we can't leave him out there to flounder, because it's just 3 of them, 2 in the Senate and 1 in the House. Imagine, you see this document here that we call the estimates? They gave him a week to prepare to get ready for this. You know, the lady in the House on the 20th of February to be debated next week.
That's right? A big book. How many pages?
That's why I told you it's hundreds.
It's over 1,000 pages, you know.
And
he has to. They want him to look after this, and then come up with something sensible in the help. And the government does not do anything right. You can't produce this amount of information and then ask some person to go through it in a couple of days and then come and speak on it. But Thorne has the ability. He will not speak on everything, but he will hold his own inside there. Trust me on that. You know, but it is so good that we will have him here, and I want to say to him, welcome to the Marcy Week Show, and welcome to the opposition.
Yes, wonderful. Well, I can see people are already saying that they're going to log on. They're going to make sure that they're on. People say they're going out, but they're going to make sure that they come back and connect and so on. And wherever you see the flyer, share it because it's an opportunity that we have, and this is our hard work. We have given him the reason that you've given him an impetus, right, Kemar? We've kind of pushed, we kind of shove him over the edge. I believe so. He didn't tell me that, but I believe that. Knowing that we exist, the people of Barbados were calling for an opposition, not just the Marcia Week show. This is something right throughout Barbados, and he answered that call, and that is why I'm supporting the concept of an opposition, regardless of the party.
You didn't see now the government is starting to run scared already, and they start attacking him. They're getting people to do videos. I saw one with Donovan, and the woman Donovan was talking about. You didn't even know her name. He was so spontaneous, if you believe it. And but they're scared because if his departure weren't hurting, they would ignore him. So it is not easy come, easy go. That was to downplay. But you see, more than half the talent in the Barbados Labour Party was in Ralph Lauren. They might have a lot of talent out there. And it is best. I kid you not. Let's go for the lawyers. Because the Attorney General, you have a match Ralph Lauren to the Attorney General. It is not a comparison, it's a contrast. To the attorney, you went Ralph Lauren, and it didn't a comparison between the two. So they're running scared now because they got an articulate fella, and I'll tell you, he will hold his own. I got every confidence that he will.
Yeah, I think what would be good that hour before, if we can come on and to just talk about what we know about him, to affirm him, because it's the same social media that they're using to discredit him. So we have to, do whatever we can, and we let him know we're going to stand by you. But the moment you take your eye off the people, we're going to deal with you, sir.
You check your phone, Marcia?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Tell Kenneth quickly that we don't need an ad. If everybody who's watching the show tell 10 people, we would multiply the audience by that number. So tell everybody, tell 10 people to come. Get them, tell them, so you don't have to run and add any. How many people are on tonight?
We had a little over 1,000.
So if each one of them, 10 people, that'd be 10,000. So, they will have you. Trust me, it will be your biggest show because people have been circulating the thing. So Kenneth, just keep sending it and ask the persons to whom you send it to send just as many people as you did, and you'll be seeing it.
So let's hear from the horse's mouth. Let's hear straight from him. All right. Good night. It's been an amazing show. Thank you so much, Kemar, for that presentation. Thank you, Miss McClean, for the education. Oh Lord, I learned lots tonight again.
You got me teaching again, and I enjoy teaching.
Yes.
I had Kemar in one of my classes, but he came too many years late.
Well, nevertheless, I still learn a lot from you.
All right. It goes both ways, my friend. And I appreciate the research that you delve into these things. It's serious.
Yes, and Mr. Franklin, thank you so much for what you shared about the nurses and your love for the workers. Every night, if I don't get Mr. Franklin, I know I can count on him. He's gonna come on here and he's gonna talk about the workers. And thank you so much, and to everybody who joined tonight. Thank you for all the comments, and even those that disagree. That's a good thing, Miss McClean, that we have people on here.
Marcia,
the only way
you might have to make a quick comment.
1 second, Kemar. The only way you will get, we're gonna take you up unless you're saying something about burn down the parliament or something weird, like we had somebody talking about. That we remove any kind of thing like that. We remove. But if you have a difference of opinion and you're not degrading anybody, any of the panelists, then that's fine. Have your own opinion. Yes, Kemar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to say that our audience upgraded. Last night we had government ministers on to the show. So I suspect very much soon we can have some government ministers coming on the Marcia Week show.
Okay,
That
listen.
would be lovely.
No, they're welcome. We will hold them to the fire like anybody else.
Kemar, how far into the show did he appear?
Well, let's talk to him afterwards so we can
Yes, that's
close.
right.
Right? Okay. All righty. So, folks, have a good night and rest up for Sunday. Rest up for Sunday. Okay. God bless you and keep the prayers going. The walls have come down. I tell you, the walls have come down. God bless you all. Have a good night.
Good night.